Get up and get out. Get out. Get out.
I have a question for you.
Say Christ is Lord. Say Christ is Lord. Say it. You say Christ is Lord. Get out. Get out. Christ is Lord.
Testing. Hello and welcome in, everybody. This is pretty early for me. I woke up 1 minute. No, I'm just kidding. I woke up a little while ago. Had to get the thumbnail ready for today. And good to see everybody in here today. Yeah, happy Saturday, everybody. Might be streaming a good bit today. But today we have a special episode. And we're going to be reacting to Lauren Southern's brand new Culture War video. And this video that she posted came with a few kind of caveats with it as well. And so I'd like to kind of take you through a couple of those and give you the reason why I wanted to do this. The first reason would be, well, that she's a woman and she sucks. That goes without saying. But there's a few other reasons in there. And so let me just take you through the top, and we'll just get into this, starting off with this. And so this is the thumbnail I made. You know, it kind of matches the kind of the tone of the video that she put out. But really, I saw it from the post that she put on X. Now, she's been decently active, I think, on X, even despite her kind of disgraced fall. I think some of these things you can see April 14th, April 13th. So she's getting back into the scene. Now, for those who don't know, Lauren Southern, and there's a batch of them that kind of all fell fell from grace, if you will. There was Ashley St. Clair, there was Lauren Chen, and there was Lauren Southern. And basically about all three of them, kind of around the same time period, fell from grace. Lauren Chen fell from grace for the Tenet Media scandal, debacle, whatever you want to call it. Although it looks like she's probably going to have the best chance to recover from that. Seems to be there was Russian influence. Tim Pool was involved in that. Taylor Hansen was involved in that. I believe Alex Stein was also named in that case, but I could be wrong about that. Lauren Southern in particular, though, had a group of things like that. And so there was the having sex with destiny part, which I don't know. I can never really remember where that came from, but it came from Discoverability. That became a big news story. But beyond that, it was the big Andrew Tate scene. It was her, you know, being involved with Andrew Tate, and I believe Tommy Robinson was his name. And the next thing you know, it starts coming out that she's basically fucked and sucked her entire way through Con Inc. And, you know, shocker, shocker. And so she's kind of basically been away. Now, Lauren Southern, there was more than just the sexual depravity element of it too. There was also this weird kind of rabbit hole that she was married to somebody who was involved in some kind of intelligence agency. And it was weird because the reason that most people were finding out about this was because of Rollo Tomassi. Now, Rollo Tomassi is also another big figure in the Manosphere, although I would say much less, not like on the S tier like Andrew Tate is, but Rollo Tomassi is a pretty active individual in the Manosphere. And I believe it was because the husband was sending Rollo Tomassi information. Rollo Tomassi became like the mediator of all this drama with Lauren Southern. Lauren Southern is also infamously really good friends. Was it a DHS agent? I couldn't remember. Yeah, it was like some kind of Fed, if you will. And then Lauren Southern was also infamously friends with Ashley St. Clair. And Ashley St. Clair, if anything, is probably the biggest and most recent, and obviously biggest because of who it was involved with Elon Musk, you know, having his child being the baby mama and then having all of the baby mama drama with Elon Musk and now being one of many of the baby mothers of Elon Musk. And so there's just a litany of this. This is kind of what we've come to expect with females in the space. Now, to this video in particular, now I think Psalm 19:1 summarizes it pretty well, which is the absolute shamelessness of this harlot. So if you read this post here, it says Christianity is being worn as a skin suit by politicians and influencers, quote, based signaling for engagement, wars, and the redemption arc industrial complex. Her latest video essay, let me click the post actually. My latest video essay, Christ versus the Culture War, has a controversial conclusion. There are no Christians online. And so marrying this post to everything that I had just said, Marion Bro said so clearly she isn't organic. I think many people believe this, given her connections and the ability and the way that she hid the majority of it and the way that most people kind of defended her too. If you're doing something like this for that long and you're going on shows like Timcast IRL and everything else, at a certain point, there's people who have to know. And at a certain point, people have to probably be told not to say anything or given the hush, the wink, and the nod, and they go, you know, we don't talk about this. So I think she was clearly protected for a period of time. But it's more so the shamelessness of, for one, not being, she's not even a Christian influencer that. She was really more so a baseline, mainstream, general conservative. And then to come from all of that, being exposed through all of that, you know, all the lying, all of the sexual relationships through the Manosphere. I think the famous post or quote from her when she came back was, the Manosphere destroyed me, something to that effect. Yeah, literally, literally destroyed her. And to come out with the shamelessness to post this video, and that's what we're going to be reacting to. So it's this hour and 10-minute long video, Christ versus the Culture War. It's a video essay. It's going to be a pure raw reaction. I've seen nothing from this, only from the post, and I wanted to wait until today to watch it. I wanted to cheat a little bit to see what was in there, but I want to give you guys my pure and raw and unfiltered reaction to what we're about to see and hear, and see what this hi my fellow Christian take we're going to get on this. And more so, the conclusion is what caught me off guard. There are no Christians online. So we're going to see what substance she has to this argument here. I'm going to go ahead and clear this one, and I'll clear this one. But here is the video. Glad that she doesn't have me blocked. What's up, Tom? He says, I forgot about this chick. I wish we could go back to that. I really do. I wish we could just go back to her not existing and not being here. And to give a bit more of, I guess, of a background of why she even got on the scene in the first place, she was originally from Canada, I do believe, or had a political activism in Canada. It's been so long since I've covered this chick. But it was something about it's okay to be white, I think was one of the original things that she was involved in. And I cannot remember if it was the t-shirt or if it was the posters. Maybe it was both. But I think this is where she got her kind of opening start, especially in American media. It was posting, I believe it was, it's okay to be white t-shirts. They're just like plain white ones. I think it was similar to the one that Kanye wore one time. I think it might have been the same t-shirt actually. But regardless, let's get this started. Christ versus the Culture War. And look at that. Almost 700,000 subscribers. And she posts a video in a return and it's barely broken 20K in its first day. You know, I've had videos that have done better than this, which is, you know, that's saying something because I'm like a tenth, not even a tenth of the size. I'm like 100th of the size or something like that. But anyways, this is also part of the reason, you know, you have a massive audience, but you betray your audience. It doesn't matter how big your page is anymore because nobody's going to watch your content. Going back to the video I made the other day, let's get this started. And before I want to tell you guys, if there's any issues with the sound, any issues at all with anything, just please let me know. I will change and adjust accordingly. That also probably was pretty loud too. We're going to pull that down a little bit and I can adjust it on the fly too. I'm going to try to not pause too much because there's going to be a lot of her talking and I want to get through the torture as quickly as possible. But I will step in on anything that she says that's insane. 2K likes, looks like it's doing decent for that kind of typical size. So let's get started. Yeah, there's an issue already. A woman is speaking. And that's a terrifying face. Lord have mercy. We're not getting started. This is the first frame of the video. How do you not cut this? It's funny. Okay, let's get this started.
Hey everybody, long time no see. Not dead, despite how many governments and shady influencers might wish it. Still kicking, and as I mentioned, 5 months ago now? If I came back, it would only be because I actually had something worth saying. And unfortunately I do. Because what the hell is going on here?
What do you think about these Netanyahu AI videos? I haven't seen him.
You haven't seen him?
No.
Oh, they think he might be dead.
What?
Yeah. There's a
funny,
bunch
Tom.
of AI videos that Israel has released that are like clearly AI.
What?
Charlie and I spoke a lot about his third eye. We spoke about a lot of the things that were strange in our childhood, the testing that both of us had to endure. We spoke about the fact that we could both astral project.
Candace Owens is a fucking
she
evil
said that.
scumbag. She is burning everything down, and she's gloating and smiling while she does it. And you know what you fucking told me? She has no security. She doesn't fucking deal with the shit we have to deal with. She's
Classic
a piece of
simple
shit.
crash out.
She's making everyone else suffer. And all of these fucking conservatives out there that send me these fucking messages have no...
Your wife has 3 baby daddies and has been married twice before.
And you
Under
you lick
your,
sniz.
We did
under
unban
your
women for today.
religion.
You lick sniz.
What is that?
You're a fucking dyke. Don't talk shit about my wife, you stupid bitch. Shut your fucking mouth.
This is funny though.
I genuinely don't know what the counterculture dissident political movement is anymore or what it's even fighting for at this point. I cannot keep track of who is being paid by what government, even myself apparently, or who is accusing who of murdering Charlie Kirk. I am watching 50-year-old political influencers have...
Okay, well, Tim Pool is not counterculture, and neither is Joe Rogan, and those were 2 of the examples used. Let's just make that clear right now.
flame wars over micro penises and blowjobs. Trump's converted to Islam, apparently. Meanwhile, the largest podcasters on earth can casually announce that Benjamin Netanyahu is dead because it was trending for
Islam.
6 minutes on Twitter. True or not, whatever seems to make it to the top of the algorithmic slop heap is just reality for the day. There's no more journalism or fact checking or reading court cases. And at this point, I kind of just respect the people who have just embraced the accelerationism. The teenage
And this woman was sucking and fucking all the people she was interviewing. Is that journalism? Apparently, if you look at what's her name? Deanna Rossini, the girl who's like sleeping with the head coach of the Patriots. This is how women think journalism is. Well, yeah, of course they got this story. I sucked him off. I was like, dude, it's so insane.
who are bone smashing and doing meth to Mog on the internet like Clavicular, just full Zoolander reality. Or whoever put out this ad on the White House media team.
She looks like Big Bird from Sesame Street. She's sitting at an awkward angle. I don't like this video angle.
It's all just performance art at this point, idiocracy, and I've reached a level of internal
Lana Del
acceptance,
Rey.
peace, that people don't want politics. They want entertainment, and so be it. But there's one part of this I can't just shrug at. One part that's kind of deeply personal, to be honest, and that is the rise of Christianity as a prop in this performance. Because right now, quite frankly, I am more likely to see someone with a cross in their bio calling someone a slur or saying God wants us to bomb the Middle East than saying anything remotely recognizable as the message of Jesus Christ.
Oh, boy, this is going to be a good one. This is going to be so good. I already have a couple of things I feel she's going to do. We're not going to hear Jews mentioned once. Everything happening in the Middle East is going to get blamed on Christianity, and I swear to the Lord, if that is the direction of this, she will lose every last bit of credibility that she has. Also, we are pausing on some of the worst frames possible, or maybe she's just a quite frankly unfortunate human being.
And I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Because what has happened to so-called Christians online? Before I begin talking about this subject, I think it's important to tell you a bit about my history so you understand why I am particularly befuddled, bamboozled, dare I say, by what I am witnessing right now. I had a very, very Christian childhood. I mean, like, we were charismatic, miracles, prophecies, speaking in tongues. My dad literally worked for Kenneth Copeland when I was super little. If you don't know who that guy is, that's this dude. I have a core memory of being like X-Men tested for my ability to speak in tongues at Sunday school and talking in gibberish so I didn't look like the only idiot who couldn't speak to angels. Then going home and thinking I was going to hell for lying. To my parents' credit, we left that church eventually.
You guys think so? Do you think your voice is too deep? It is kind of deep. I will say that. I guess, but to me, when my voice is as deep as it is, it doesn't matter to me. It's like no girl's voice is gonna be really deeper than mine unless it's like, unless it's Caitlyn Jenner. But I'm gonna be honest with you. There was zero expression throughout her entire, even during her conservative media days, that anyone was gonna be like, wow, she's a Christian. Because she's failing the commandment in Timothy. Be kind and gentle and don't teach men. This is like kind of the opposite here.
They had me and my sister quite young and didn't come from stable family backgrounds or traditions. So despite some of the weirder experiences I had in religious circles, I honestly feel incredibly lucky that I had parents who were trying to find structure and meaning in their life, even if it included a bit of theological stumbling in the dark. And in a way, my childhood was kind of cool because I got to do like a tasting board of all these different Protestant denominations.
Yeah, Kenneth
a few
Copeland's
years at a Baptist church, a few years at a Mennonite church, evangelical, reform. I went to a Pentecostal school until I was 14. I attended Bible study well into my teen years. And then as I got older, I started encountering Catholicism and I attended Mass and learned why my parents warned me to stay away from those Catholic bad boys. I'm just kidding. I love you Catholics. On a serious note, my Achilles heel is clearly an obsession with a good Romeo.
Bro. Cringe, dude. Cringe. That is so cringe, dude. When your disgrace is because you were sexually active, that it's like, please don't ever do stuff like that again. You burn everyone out on that. Never do that again. And also, if this is your upbringing, like, why are we just finding out now? Like, you had all this upbringing, all the Bible study, and you didn't learn anything. Like, that's kind of sucks. Maybe is that on the teachers or on her?
And Juliet story. Anyways. Why do I say all of this? Why am I litigating my entire past? My point is, I have lived and breathed the Christian culture and tradition in the real world my entire life. I've been a part of these communities in multiple denominations and continents. I still have my Adventures in Odyssey CDs. I am a true card-holding member of 90s Christian Kids. And let me tell you, not once, not a single one of these churches I attended over my 30 years on this earth, not one sermon, youth group, or even home group have I heard a single word that has sounded anything like the version of Christianity I see on the internet today. Never. Not even at the wacky prosperity gospel churches I've gone to. What is going on? Some of the most prominent voices I see online claiming to represent Christians.
Because she just admitted she was raised on Kenneth Copeland and VeggieTales and didn't stay in a single denomination, was going back and forth all over the place. It's like, yeah, you're moving all over. None of this speaks to like you were living and breathing the Christian lifestyle. Like, you know how many people go to Christian churches and aren't Christians, and go to like Christian schools and aren't Christian? Like, it means so little. It was very performative to get the idea across. If that's to boost your credibility, hey fellow Christians, it's not working.
On the internet would not just be reprimanded by church leadership, but like physically removed from the building for some of the things they flippantly say on a daily basis. I sure as hell never heard Larry the Cucumber utter the word femoid, slut, body count, and damn well Mr. Whitaker would never. So I'm pretty confident this stuff is not coming from the church culture or the community I grew up in. So today, I'm going to try. I'm going to put in an honest to God effort to answer why it is that the average person's perception of Christians online is this. My favorite part of the Bible is where Jesus says to log online and call people slurs all day. I'm gonna be real. I don't think the majority of people Christ posting all day, building up this reputation, are connected to actual Christian communities in real life at all. Communities who tend to be the backbone of an enormous amount of
And she is. And she is. It's like, let me look at this random Instagram reel post from a user that I'm not even going to show you who it's from, and then we're gonna stand on my my moral high ground here.
Charity, community life, and quiet service, everyday acts of kindness. And you know what? I think Christians deserve better. I think they deserve better than having their faith publicly worn like a skin suit by political performers and culture warriors looking for a moral costume design. And wait, I know what some of you may be thinking. What about you, Lauren? What damn moral authority do you have to jump in here and say anything about what Christianity actually is
versus
what it isn't?
You should get into the part.
None. I have no moral authority. My life is a mess. I could sit here and I could tell you that I read my Bible, I pray, and I believe in God, and that would be true. But I could also tell you I haven't been to church in over a year. I have parts of my life in mind that do not line up neatly with scripture at all, and I question whether I should call myself a Christian at all. And that would be true too. So I'm not speaking from some holier...
Wait, did you say she doesn't consider herself Christian? I missed that part, sorry.
Do not line up neatly with scripture at all, and I question whether I should call myself a Christian at all.
Then what? Okay. So understand, she made an hour-long video essay that she wants to give the opinion with credibility that the Christian online space doesn't have Christians in it, by firstly admitting to the fact that she is no different than any of the people she is attempting to criticize, while standing on VeggieTales and the Odyssey. And oh, my dad worked for Kenneth Copeland or something like that. I thought I was going to crash out, but this might actually end up being hilarious. At least she's being honest. A little bit of self-deprecating. I'll take it. That is respectable. I will take the fact that she's not going to try to be a complete liar here.
And that would be true too. So I'm not speaking from some holier than thou position. If anything, I think I have been directly involved in creating the current downfall of online Christianity, and thus feel uniquely qualified to critique it from a place of personal understanding, but also just observation of very real patterns and facts that anyone could recognize if they had the same information about scripture, which I just so happen to have, largely because, well, some of you were too busy spending your childhoods summoning demons with Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I was out here clocking 200 hours in Captain Bible and the Dome of Darkness at 8 years old. 1995, absolute banger. Entire premise.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Hold on. I have to do. I have to. I'm sorry. I didn't want to do this. I didn't think I would have to do this. Where are we at? See, I'm going to pull up. We got 2 Timothy here. Let me find this. Or forgive me, it's 1 Timothy. That's what I'm looking for, right? I always mix both of them. Where are we at? Where am I? Man, forgive me. 1 Timothy 2. You are correct. Sorry, my OSB has so many of these infographics in here. Man, I cannot find it. Okay. Maybe I'm just retarded. 1 Timothy 2, that's exactly what I was looking for. It's 11. Oh, that's right here. See, without my glasses, I'm literally blind. But exactly, 1 Timothy 2, verses 11 through 12. Let a woman learn in silence with all submission. Verse 12. And I do not permit a woman to teach or to have authority over a man, but to be in silence. Now, if you go to some of the order translations, and thank you, House, I appreciate it. If you go to some of the order translations, It literally is from Paul. He says, I will suffer not the teachings of a woman. Sorry, just wanted to get that out of the way to see that Lauren maybe have done all of that, but she missed a huge and very important important lesson in there.
Even kidding. You enter a digital dome that humanity has been trapped under by Dr. Genesis, who is a wealthy scientist guy. Anyways, the dome is full of robot demons who are programmed to lie to you about what the Bible actually says and to keep the population deceived. It's your job to enter the dome of darkness and have a good enough knowledge of the right verses and context to debate and debunk their nonsense to free humanity. And if they really get to you, you gotta log off and sit in your prayer room to heal. I have been training my whole life to make this video. Because apparently, even though that game scared the hell out of me as a kid, it wasn't enough. Apparently its entire premise was just going to become reality like 20 to 30 years later. And that's where we're gonna go next. What went wrong?
Hey guys, when you ever think about like what happened to Dylan Mulvaney, it's like, oh, remember Dylan Mulvaney? Here's where he is now. Like, that's all I can think of is is this what Dylan Mulvaney does? Like, Lauren Southern is just blonde version of Dylan Mulvaney, the Bud Light guy. Remember the Bud Light troon? Hi guys, buy the Bud Light. This is where he's at now.
There's this really fascinating critique that Jordan Peterson makes about why he refuses to answer when people ask if he's a Christian, and it goes like this.
The question is almost always manipulative. It's not really a question. It's a veiled demand that I declare my allegiance in the manner they see fit at that moment. No, thank you.
Now, obviously, there are two ways to read that. A more cynical reading would be, I don't want to lose my Christian audience, so I'm going to avoid giving a firm answer. And that is entirely possible. But there's also a more charitable reading, and honestly one I deeply understand. Whenever you are asked about your faith in media,
No, what we're not gonna do is, dude, we can't even get into what she actually wants to say. We're gonna defend Jordan Peterson's crash out. If you are a Christian, you say it. You say, I believe with my mouth, my mind, and my heart that Jesus Christ is Lord and Savior. And I repent of my sins. I believe in the God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. It's not hard. See how I can do it? Do you see how I can do it? Jordan Peterson is a fraud. Okay, next.
Politics or online discourse, people don't really give a shit about your actual spiritual life. They're more interested in hearing whether you will publicly signal membership in their group. They don't want to know what you believe, they want reassurance. That Peterson is on the team or that I'm on the team, a clean friend-enemy distinction, which is where a lot of online Christianity has gone wrong in my opinion. It's functionally become team sports. Us versus them. Are you posting Christ is King? Do you have the cross emoji in your bio? Do you hate those muzzies too? Did you hit like and subscribe to save the West? Also, donate to my fundraiser if you love Jesus.
What you can't do is you can't lump in both the cucked Christian side of the space and also the based side of the Christian space. They are quite literally two distinct groups. And even among those groups, there's a bunch of different even factions among them. Even, I mean, among the evangelicals, you have like the non-denoms versus the, well, maybe I guess that's a better way to say it. You have the progressive evangelicals and then like the non-denom kind of groups, loose, no strong Canaan. But she's going to lump it all in there together and try to make some broad point. No credibility here, man. Zero. No finger on the pulse. Go back to go live with Destiny or something.
Do you see the problem here? Like, everything is now being utilized for what I've seen referred to as the culture war cinematic universe. What is supposed to be a deeply personal, spiritual, and contemplative experience is being monetized, mass-produced, and used for the purpose of politics. And I'm not saying this hasn't been done before in history. Obviously, the church has been corrupt before, but it's taken on a whole new form in the era of the internet algorithms, AI, and bots. And I think people first started getting really uncomfortable with this new era of overtly political religiosity after Charlie Kirk's murder, which was this landmark emotional moment for a lot of people, myself included. But then there was the twist. Because immediately following this tragedy, what I would have imagined should have been a somber ceremony became this insane political spectacle with fireworks, repeated references to God, all between political campaigning.
We're going to be doing it with...
Yeah, okay. But Lauren, Christians don't do that. Jews do that. to borrow a phrase from Nick. Lauren, no, Christians don't do that. Jews do that.
Bobby,
don't throw an Erica Kirk with us.
All of the professionals, I think you're going to find it to be amazing. I think we found an answer to autism. How about that? Autism tomorrow.
On top of this, you also just had a whole strange genre of deification that happened where politicians and commentators were saying Charlie Kirk was a saint or that Jesus Christ was asking for his autograph in heaven.
So their legacy grows, and Charlie's will too, beyond his wildest dreams. And where Charlie is right now, he is fine.
Is that
I
Greg
picture
Gutfeld?
God asking him for his autograph.
I would say if Charlie Kirk lived in the biblical times, he'd have been the 13th disciple.
Okay. But for those who want a bit more context over who Mr. Nels is, Mr. Nels is also one of these individuals. We covered him just yesterday, I believe. He's talking about what Trump is doing right now is like the second coming. So Mr. Nels is he's out there. He's out there. But if anything, he comes from this very extremely subverted version of Christianity. But she's not going to make the distinction because, of course, that would be truth. And women are allergic to that.
He'd have been the 13th disciple.
The whole thing was just weird, man. It was just weird. And that's not even touching on the Facebook boomers and their AI posts.
Sometimes I fall to my knees and pray. Come,
That AI stuff is cringe.
Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. Knock, knock,
I've never seen this.
Worst of all, though, by far, was when all of this amalgamated into a political pressure campaign, forcing people to fall in
That's
line.
crazy.
You saw mass statements that if your church didn't mention Charlie Kirk,
I will say, to me, that is insane. This is why I was saying I'm leaning towards iconoclasm. When I see anybody make a video or anything like that, it's just it makes me uncomfortable. I know people would defend like The Chosen and things like that and all that, but just in general, it just makes me uncomfortable to see it depicted like that. Orthodox iconography, I think is fine, but when you see the AI stuff with Jesus like that, it's like that's nope, get it away from me. Get that demonic stuff away from me.
you had to stop attending it. Or if you thought any of this was just kind of weird, how dare you criticize a grieving widow? Not only are you a bad Republican, you're a bad Christian. And I think for a political movement, the dissident right-wing sphere, who are generally suspicious of any sort of cultural pressure to fall in line, especially post-COVID and lockdown, this kind of put people into conspiratorial hyperdrive, which created the likes of Candace Owens' super schizo theories becoming viral sensations, which...
To be fair here, she's correct on that. The whole... You're not a Christian or attacking people for noticing that the fact that Erica Kirk seems demonic, the way that she was behaving or something was just off, like that's fair. She's actually correct about this. You know, a broken clock can be right twice a day. And I will say, somebody asked something. Yes, this is exactly right. So Lauren Southern joined Ashley St. Clair and the Why I Left the Right scam. She did. And she did even before this when she made her big political piece about the Manosphere destroyed me, and she was just wanted to attack all of those guys too.
By the way, I beg of you, if you have fallen down that rabbit hole, just take a minute to actually read things like the Macron court case filed against her for defamation, because it is wacky how much she's just straight up inventing. And the same goes for the Charlie Kirk situation.
And we are definitively getting closer to what took place on that day, and we are getting closer. I think we're close. We are definitively getting closer. We're getting close. We're getting close. Very close. We're inching ever closer.
This is fair. You guys know this.
We are
This is
close,
fair.
and we're getting closer to the truth. We get closer. We are getting close.
But don't worry, guys, she's getting close. We're gonna have the answers, the real answers to Charlie's killer soon.
Find out next time on Candace Owens.
Seriously. I promise you, you are allowed to think firework funerals are cringe and weird without insinuating Erica Kirk of having been involved in her husband's murder.
Dude, Candace edging. Why do the comments just have the most what are we doing? But that's so true. That's a great way to put it. And she has so many unfortunate frames in here. She needs a lower quality camera to not look this bad. She needs a lower quality camera.
There is a middle ground there. But back to what I was talking about. It wasn't just the conspiracy stuff that came out of all of this. I find that whenever people try to mandate something as holy or sacred that's just human, there's always a backlash of mockery. Like you saw this with land acknowledgements. There's no drunk driving on stolen land. And as for people feeling forced to mourn Charlie Kirk, well, we saw the result of that.
To my friend Charlie Kirk, rest now, brother. We have the watch, and I'll see you in Valhalla.
We need to go now. The deep state is scraping our signals. They're eating the babies. No time to explain.
Go where? It's 4 a.m. Nigga, what the fuck?
Antarctica.
What is this place?
Home.
I love the Agartha edits though.
We are Charlie Kirk. We carry
My wife sings this song like every other day. It was burned into my head.
Regardless of all the mockery and backlash, though, a ton of political capital was gained through the pushing of this seemingly holy mandate that came about post Charlie's death. And the administration, as well as infinite podcasters, are now continually using this language and pressure of who is on God's side, and thus which side is God on.
You know why we have to do all of this with TSA?
I do not sing along.
Because of Muslims. Muslims always mess things up.
Powered by Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but Valentina Gomez is you, Lauren. Valentina Gomez literally is you, Lauren. Because all she cares about is getting up the next rung on the ladder, so she will attach herself to whatever political group or identity that she needs to that's going to help benefit her for that. Valentina Gomez is out there like blowing up the Quran and setting it on fire and always, and yelling at Muslims and stuff. But she's you, Lauren. She just hasn't been exposed yet. We just don't have the sex tape, repertoire. We don't have the 24-hour live stream of Lauren Southern, Valentina Gomez and Destiny. She's you. I don't understand this. She's not doing a good enough job of actually drawing the distinctions and separations here. She keeps bluntly and roughly grouping all of these people together. There's a big difference between a Valentina Gomez and like a Ted Cruz or a Greg Gutfeld for that matter, or even a Troy Nels. These are different. There's different distinctions. But alas.
Even Trump's new spiritual advisor has compared Trump to Jesus Christ himself.
And Mr. President, no one has paid the price like you have paid the price. It almost cost you your life. You were betrayed and arrested and falsely accused. It's a familiar pattern that our Lord and Savior showed us. But it didn't end there for him, and it didn't end there for you.
Truth is, with how much of the U.S. population identify as Christian and how much charitable donation Christians give, religious signaling is just the way to go if you want money and power, unfortunately. Or even, say, justification to start a war, to start bombing countries.
Almighty God, who trains our hands for war and our fingers.
I gotta stop here because if for anyone who doesn't know, I just want to show this just real quick. Oh my gosh, how is it not gonna be one of the first ones? If you guys have not seen this photo shoot, what? Let me go to X then. If you guys haven't seen this, it's crazy. How is that not going to be one of the first things? Lauren Southern, Ashley, Claire, Witch. Here we go. Look at this photo shoot they did. This has always been a grift to them. We're just conservative women speaking out. And look at the way the Manosphere destroyed us. Elon Musk destroyed me. You know, like, look at these people, right? This has been the grift, and they have been friends. This has been always what they have been about. So yeah, bring back Salem witch trials. You would be fulfilling their fantasy. They fantasize about being tied up to the stake for being bad women. Like, that's who these people are, dude. They are fake, void, and neurotic grifters. Kind of crazy it took that long to find the photo. There's like multiple, and this is a poor quality one. They did multiple too. There's a couple of them where like Lauren's like in the background, like there's like smoke, it's like misty smoke everywhere. It's like, dude. It's so, they're being so not oppressed, they had to go take a photo shoot to go pretend like they were being oppressed. Crazy, crazy work. All right, back to video.
For battle. You who stirred the nations from the north against Babylon of old, by the blast of your anger let the evil perish. Let their bulls go down to slaughter, for their day has come, the time of their punishment. Pour out your wrath upon those who plot vain things, and blow them away like chaff before the wind.
Now listen, I am no fan of the Ayatollahs, but one of the biggest reasons I'm not a fan of them is because they use a religious mandate for political oppression. They strongly believe in Sharia law, and just recently they killed people by the tens of thousands for protesting, hanging teenagers in the street who oppose them, and claiming, would you believe it or not, that it's God's will. So no, a politician just telling me God wills it is not a very convincing argument, given they've done this since the dawn of time to just...
You of little faith. Many times God has said, wipe these people from the face of the earth, I command it, and take their women and their children, largely all Old Testament, yes. The other thing with this that's wrong is the fact that this story is bullshit. Let me go to, is this, no, I missed it. But this whole thing about the protesters, it's just bullshit. It is as true as the 40 beheaded babies. And until we get actual numbers, more evidence to support that, all they're basically touting is a narrative. They said this happened. But alas, and again, it's also kind of curious too, that even in this video, she has to give the preamble like, oh, I don't like Muslims. So, because if anything you say against the current iteration, you're going to get that pushback that, oh, do you support Iran? It's crazy.
God's will. So no, a politician just telling me God wills it is not a very convincing argument, given they've done this since the dawn of time to justify infinite horrendous behavior. So how do we tell who is actually speaking God's will and who isn't? How do we discern? Well, from a Christian perspective, we've been given some pretty good clues in the Bible, which clearly no one on Twitter actually reads, because if your only exposure to Christianity has been recent online discourse, you might assume the greatest enemies of Christ were OnlyFans girls, Democrats, and children making makeup tutorials on the internet, when in reality, his main conflict was repeatedly with a group called the Pharisees. The Pharisees were a religious movement in first century Judea known for taking religious law extremely seriously, and to be fair to them, they were not cartoon villains. They were often highly disciplined, highly educated, morally serious people trying to preserve religious identity under political pressure. The problem is that, according to gospel accounts, many of them became obsessed with the appearance of righteousness rather than the substance of it. I'm reminded of when Jesus heals a man on the Sabbath in the Gospel of Mark, and the Pharisees go, Actually, you're not supposed to heal people on the Sabbath. That's against the rules because we're not supposed to do any work on the Sabbath. And Jesus is like, guys, the entire point of the Sabbath is to rest, to become closer to God and cultivate holiness. And helping someone in need is something that draws you closer to God. The point of the Sabbath is not the Sabbath itself. It's a means toward love, justice, and mercy. So basically, half the New Testament is just Jesus correcting these nerds for missing the actual point of everything. They treat religious knowledge as a tool for authority rather than inner transformation. And that is why some of Jesus' harshest language is not aimed at obvious sinners, but at highly respectable religious people who had learned how to weaponize virtue. Which is awkwardly relevant, because once you start noticing that pattern, you start seeing why that conflict still matters now.
This is about to be, and now I can feel I can feel the anger actually building up in my body as she was talking here. And yeah, let's see, she talks about the 7 woes. Because it's the easiest prediction of all time. She's just basically going to make the connection that the Pharisees of then are all of these people saying that people should actually follow the word of God today. And it's just insane because it's going to come with very little substance. It's just going to point to, yeah, OnlyFans girls. Like, of course, that's a huge problem. You think, what part of her thinks that Jesus Christ would sit there and be like, well, this was the only way? Like, he would be defending OnlyFans. He wouldn't be defending Democrats, the party of abortion, the party of immigration. And where were the Pharisees? What happened to the Pharisees, Lauren Southern? Can you describe and maybe give a bit more history to what happened to the Pharisees through the life of Jesus Christ and then afterwards? We're probably not going to get that part. The song's a banger, though.
Okay,
dude,
I love that song.
Cringe.
Sorry. Unfortunately, the modern Pharisees are a lot less interesting, well-read, and respectable than the historical ones. They are largely influencers, partaking in something I've seen referred to as based signaling. It's essentially the right-wing version of virtue signaling. Richard Hanania wrote a scathing article last year called The Based Ritual, in which he plays out a fiction.
Richard Hanania did not write anything scathing ever, period. That is discrediting in and of itself. Richard Hanania could not strike fear in a fly. Let's be honest.
But on-the-nose conversation between right-wing political types at a Capitol Hill bar, who are repeatedly trying to one-up each other in how transgressive, cynical, and ideologically provocative they can sound, using increasingly extreme takes as a form of in-group status competition rather than genuine argument or any substantial belief. Now, while it's not a one-to-one comparison to Richard's article, the practice of based signaling is something I understand very well. Why? Well, of course I know her.
Real.
She is me. Take a look at Exhibit A here. Look at that sick Deus Vult sweater. Look how incredibly based I am. Forget about a tiny cross necklace. In fact, forget about going to church at all. Instead, I'm gonna wear a giant sweatshirt with a Jerusalem cross and post it on social media. Do you get it? Because that's what the Crusaders wore, and they had swords, and they killed their enemies. And I'm gonna Slav squat, because that's a popular meme at the time.
She's just so bitter. She's so bitter towards the fact that all of these dudes absolutely annihilated her in the comments. She's so bitter. I think she used the picture of herself as an example, but is there gonna be any mention of like why there's been a retreat from the churches? Is there going to be any mention of the retreat from the Western churches to a bit more of the Eastern churches, or the return to Catholicism? Probably not. We're probably going to once again just grossly and grotesquely throw everything, lump it all in together, and pretend it's all the same. This is just a terrible discernment from her.
Please give me a crumb of internet attention. Give me a crumb of likes. One thing I can assure you is that God was not considered or involved at any point in the process of making this image. I am signaling to the people in my peer group at the time that I am just so cool. So cool. I mean, look at this. I used to wear this to protests. What is going on here? What in the heresy is happening? Just embarrassing behavior. And don't get me wrong, you know, to this day, I'm not above sitting in bed and liking a based King Baldwin meme. Those epic Save the West edits, it's all very intoxicating.
She sees this and she thinks it's a joke, but that's kind of the crazy self-report, right? Like she's showing like she has no idea why these guys are posting this, what this is even from. It's all base virtue signaling. She thinks that all these guys come up here, all these young men are posting these videos because they want a virtue signal to all the girls around them and all the people around them that they're like, they definitely, no, it's not this at all. This is a reaction to the degenerate society that has largely been orchestrated by Jews and many other elements too that have subverted Christianity. But we're not getting any mention of that because she doesn't even understand it. She has no grasp of it. And if anything, she is a part of it, trying to play the defense on the last tail ends of her career before she burns out. This is sad.
I get it. It tickles the dopamine receptors, but the based internet Christian stuff has absolutely nothing to do with the soul or any sort of real spiritual journey. And pretending it does is bad. It's not good. In fact, I think it's the culprit for a good portion of people who seemingly crowdsource their religious beliefs, which then become indistinguishable from their political aims. Like when I see this video that says, "How far right are you?" And then this guy just posts clips of crusaders and Christians praying. I don't know what that means. What are you talking about? Which crusades do you support? Do you know any?
At least she's admitting to it. At least she's admitting she's not grasping it. And here's the thing too, if she understood, and I mean if she read the Bible, and I mean that very sincerely, of course she wouldn't get it. Why would the calls and the signals to men be the same calls and signals that are received by women too? Very cringe overall. And somebody said this earlier, but it's a lot more noticeable now. She's being overtly performative. And I would imagine it's probably like a defense mechanism or neurological.
Anything about them? I'm pretty sure the fourth one sacked Constantinople, a Christian city, looted churches, and killed fellow Christians. Excuse my language, but is everyone just now? Someone could just as easily make a clip with like, "How far left are your views?" and then based edit of Jesus washing people's feet. I have friends of mine who I know never grew up Christian, who don't attend church, who haven't ever read the Bible, who began putting crosses in their Twitter bios because they joined the political right. It's like a video game badge or something. And I love Crusader Kings, okay, great game, played a lot of it growing up, but holy LARP, what are we doing here? The anti-Catholic Tennessee congressman uses Catholic crusaders to argue for evangelical Protestant nationalism.
This post from Rep. Andy Ogles is not anything close to the same as what she just covered in the Instagram Reels, but she's once again lumping it in together. This post from Andy Ogles is the virtue signaling that is closer to what she's actually talking about by putting Hegseth himself and Marco Rubio looks like as crusaders. But we know they're just crusaders for Israel, or Miriam Adelson. That's who they're crusaders for. This is to mask their intentions, not the other way around. The Instagram Reels are like loose signals. Otherwise, they would be just straight up posting like Nick clips, right? But that would get them banned. That's why she's not understanding it. There's more that they would say, but it would just get a lot of these accounts taken off the face of the earth.
I can't even begin to get into the denominational wars in this video, but why are politicians acting like this is Christian Comic Con? I fear I have helped unleash levels of cringe into the world that I simply cannot undo. I have become cringe, the destroyer of movements. These people want all the clout of Christian signaling without any of the substance.
Yeah, usage.
As did I. But at least I was 20 and not an elected official at the peak of my doing this. Based signaling explains a lot. Why you'll see tons of political accounts using biblical references when they're talking about waging war or striking down sinners, who always happen to be political opponents and never themselves, by the way. But you'll never once see them reference like, I don't know, the Beatitudes. Blessed are the meek, blessed are the merciful, blessed are the peacemakers, because...
Okay, I have seen I have seen allegations. I don't know if they're true or not, but I've seen allegations that her actual real name is something like Simonson. It's like Lauren Simonson or something to that effect. We have this quote here from Uncle House, and the house always wins. It says, quote, "I'm not Jewish, I just have Jewish heritage," and emphasize that her family left Denmark due to the war. Or in Southern. Interesting.
As it is politics first and religion as a tool. And when I say tool, I mean quite literally a tool. In fact, in August of last year, Nikita Beer, the head of product at X, tweeted out that the most common bot bio is Christian, father, love my country. So when I'm building up my argument in this video that a lot of people partaking in this based signaling are not Christians, I'm not even just saying they aren't Christians. Some of these posters, in fact, seemingly a majority of them, aren't even people at all. They're literally bots. It all comes full circle back to Captain Bible. We're fighting demon robots out here, and it is 64-year-old Bob who volunteers at the Salvation Army every Saturday getting the bad rap for it. Look at this post. It has 31,000 likes talking about how guys with the bio, husband, follower of Christ, girl dad, are out here tweeting some of the most offensive things you've ever seen. Just absolutely horrific stuff. Not good. But you know what? There are some real faces and names out here who are...
She said, have we seen one of... She keeps showing the reaction posts, like people reacting to what's being said. But what's being said and who's it being said to? That would maybe give a bit more clarity here. But she's just showing like how people are soy jacking. Oh, he said something offensive. And the guy probably said, your daughter's a whore. And I'm sorry if you find that offensive, but that depending on the situation and context, that would be an objectively true statement. And it's more than likely what she's responding to. All these guys out here telling women to put clothes on. It's over. Did you guys see there's like a horror movie coming out? Horror movie? And the horror is that women can't be whores. I'm not even joking you. Look this up. The movie's called One More Night. And it's about how the society doesn't allow premarital sex except for one day of the year. The horror is that I can't be a whore. Crazy.
Are trying to claim or make it appear as though this is the real Christian tradition. Some who even claim to be pastors, who seem far more interested in the based ritual than the Beatitudes. Let's take a quick look at them.
Oh, Wilson and Webben.
Part of why I made this video is that for a long time, I honestly assumed that the nastier corners of online Christian content would stay where they usually live, buried in algorithmic side alleyways, just shouting at each other, mostly invisible to normal people. Then the other day, I saw that one of the people I think represents this modern Pharisaical version of Christianity most clearly had been hosted on the Joe Rogan Experience, which is, for better or worse, probably one of the most influential podcast platforms in the world. And at that point, I kind of thought to myself, all right, I really shouldn't just sit here in my little walled garden pretending that all of this corrects itself eventually, because this stuff is just not staying niche anymore. It's going...
And this is where we are right now. This is a great point. Lauren Southern is now claiming she's more informed on the scriptures than her little pastor. And so Joel Webben, on the right, if you don't know, Joel Webben comes from Right Response Ministries. I forget the name of his actual church, but he's also got that. And what was the new channel that he... New XR, it's like New Christian Right, I believe is the name of the new, like the parent or the sister organization now. And we're going to get her standing on a pedestal after admitting all of what she said at the beginning to then stand here and say, here's why Joel Webben's not a real Christian or why he's a bad Christian. It's insane.
Mainstream
NXR,
somehow.
Thank you.
If you don't know who Andrew Wilson is, he originally operated in the old blood sports Twitch debate world under the name Big Papa Fascist. He has since rebranded, but still runs a show called The Crucible. And in a religious context, that is a wild title to choose. In Christian language, a crucible is a severe trial, a fire that purifies the character. So if you are branding your platform as essentially God's forge for moral purification, you are making an enormous claim. And quite frankly, if you are going to market yourself like that, you should probably represent God well, which, when it comes to Andrew Wilson, I'll leave that up to you guys to decide.
Me, I'm a Christian. My entire ethical worldview comes and is sealed, right? It's monolithically sealed.
And you know, as I said at the beginning of this video, I don't think I represent Christianity well. But the difference is, I'm not calling myself a crucible for God while coming across like a Pharisee so aggressively on the nose that I think even an atheist screenwriter making satire would be told to tone it down.
But Charlie, I just think honestly you're too fucking stupid to understand them. Oh, I'm sorry, Dyke. Is she morally inconsequential in comparison to your ditch licking?
They bring nothing to the table, none of them, including the old bags here, who bring nothing to the table by their own admission except their pussy. And that, to me, is why, and when asked, this is all you get. I bring love and affection. You don't bring shit to the table. Good. What do you bring to the table besides your vagina? Give me a real example. If you want a man to take care of you for the rest of your life, what do you bring to the table except your vagina and a bunch of baggage?
First of all, I gotta be honest.
I don't care. Anyways, this is what's insane about this. Is she says that she knows that she's like, I have strong history as being a Christian. I was raised Christian, but I've not been the best Christian, and I don't even know if I would claim it, you know, highlighting Jordan Peterson. Then goes to somebody who does claim it, Andrew Wilson, who debates it, and largely against women, and is now going to tone police him. So now then violating the fact that we know that I just read directly from the Bible, taking authority over a man. This is what feminism does to the brain. And then on top of it, we're going to now come back and now we're going to use the tone policing because Andrew Wilson says mean words and bad words. No, like she's making an argument against Christianity in defense of more weak cucked Christianity. This is insane. The circular nature to this is actually kind of insane.
I gotta be honest, I don't know who is still out here listening to this kind of content in the year 2026. I remember that viral meme from years ago, mocking Vice for being so predictably edgy in their content strategy. It seemed like they selected headlines by just getting a dude to throw a dildo at a wall to pick a drug country and a minority, and bam, there's their story. These modern Manosphere podcasters feel no different. It's the same predictable combination of slop every time. But it's also kind of hilarious once you see it for what it is. The second you see a cigar and a podcast mic on screen, you know you are about to hear some of the dumbest shit of your life.
How do you make $50,000 a month? You haven't told me anything.
Wake up at 3 a.m.
Okay.
Go to sleep at 7 p.m.
Got it. Now what do you do in between 3 a.m. and 7 p.m.?
Hard work. Eat the spaghetti. Eat the meatballs. Eat the broccoli. Don't get distracted with candy and ice cream.
How does that generate income?
But anyways, back to Andrew Wilson. Being predictable Manosphere slop, while annoying, is honestly not my main problem with his content. I think this clip here captures one of my biggest issues.
Your wife has 3 baby daddies and has been married twice before.
And you
you
lick sniz.
Under your religion.
You lick sniz.
What is that?
You're a fucking dyke. Don't talk shit about my wife, you stupid bitch. Shut your fucking mouth. Shut your stupid bitch mouth.
Your wife with the 3 baby
What did
daddies?
I just say, Dyke?
Your wife with the 3 baby daddies?
I'm sorry, Dyke. Is she morally inconsequential in comparison to your ditch licking?
I'm not even going to criticize the rage part. That aside,
That's
the
crazy.
shocking thing to me is what seems to actually trigger his outburst. Because what visibly bothers Andrew is that someone brings up the fact that his wife had children with 3 different men. And he appears deeply humiliated by that fact. And this is why it's bizarre. Him marrying his wife, despite her past, and taking her children from previous relationships under his wing, within a Christian moral framework, which he claims to subscribe to, should not be a source of shame. In fact, that is arguably one of the most honorable things about his life. A man choosing to love, protect and provide for children who are not biologically his, even knowing many people will judge him for it, is, in Christian terms, profoundly respectable. The Bible calls endlessly for people to care for the vulnerable, women, and fatherless children, and he had the perfect opportunity there to explain all of this to the lady confronting him. He could have been an incredible witness to her in that moment, but instead he instantly collapsed into insult. And I think the reason is pretty obvious to anyone.
This is just, I don't think, now I could be wrong about this, but I don't think Andrew Wilson would give prescriptive advice to other young men to do what he did. I don't know if he talks about it that much or if he's that vulnerable about it, but I don't think that Andrew Wilson would tell young men that they should also do that. And if anything, I've not really touched upon this at all, but I do think that was a bad decision. It's not to say Rachel Wilson's like lost product or a bad person. I think she does a lot of work under the wing of Andrew Wilson that ultimately makes up for previous decisions that she's made and, you know, given to Andrew Wilson. But she's clearly, how do you not see that? That it's every man would feel that way. Any man, no matter what level of what they were, period, because it is a source of shame. That is the male biological nature. That is the way that men operate. But again, women hate that. Women hate men. And she hates that that's an actual human reaction from a male. No male wants to have a woman who has been in marital relations with other men before. No male desires to be with a woman who has been with multiple other men before. No male desires that, period, at all. And it does literally physically hurt them. It is a weak point for most men. And if any men that's got a woman that's been in previous relationships, of course they're not going to talk about it. But she's trying to say like he did the wrong thing or why does he feel shame about it? It's like, no, every man would feel shame about it. They quite literally would. Period. Because men are, for one, territorial. But two, that is the wife and the woman is a reflection upon him, upon who he is. There's a lot of ways you could go about it, but her misunderstanding here is not surprising whatsoever.
Watching this, Wilson has built a version of Christianity where mercy and redemption no longer feel masculine enough to defend. Because the audience he has cultivated does not reward mercy. They reward domination, humiliation, and cruelty. They are more focused on condemning the women on these podcasts for not following the letter of the law than showing the love the laws were made to protect. It's all based signaling and no beatitudes, which means the very values that should be his strongest moral ground become liabilities in front of his own followers. Because to that audience, taking responsibility for a family like his risks being read as weakness, as being a cuck or simping or whatever vocabulary masculinity cosplay happens to be using that week. And I do mean cosplay because I don't want to slander real masculinity with whatever this online performance art has become. In a now deleted tweet from late last year referencing migrant crime and rape against women, Wilson said, "They voted for it. Help us, men, help us. No." And he's essentially arguing that women overwhelmingly vote liberal, so if anything bad happens to them, it's their fault and we have no duty to defend them. Another account responded, "Women, brother, father, help me. You, nah, you asked for it. Get raped. You really are a piece of shit." To which Andrew responds, "You heard me, bitch. Reap as you sow." And I don't think I have ever seen a message portrayed that is more quintessentially anti-Christian in my life.
Okay. I'm going to be honest, this part, I will say it's a rough tell, but there is an argument with this, which is to say if women are allowed equal rights and an equal positioning in society, then they are also equally accountable for the results and consequences of those realities. Do I agree that I think that I would say that to like women deserve those things? Like, no, not in the whole. But regardless, it's like, well, if women are accountable beings, they're allowed the ability to vote, and they vote for the things that led them to the position that put them in the position for Islam and Muslims and third worlders to surround their nation and be in these positions, and they continually do things to defend it, support it. They go on Jubilee and call you racist if you try to bring up any objective facts, then they are responsible for it. If not, then you have to give up. Then you have to then say, well, if they're not responsible, then they're not accountable beings. Then they are not. Then they're not sentient, right? If they're given this position, but they can't be held accountable, then what does that say? What position is that? What male is allowed to vote and they are held accountable to their actions and consequences, but a woman is given the same positioning in equal status, but then she's also then not responsible for those same exact traits and qualities and decisions and consequences. Again, it's a circular argument. And if anything, she should make the Christian argument, which is to say, no, women should have no rights. They shouldn't be voting, not say they should have no rights, but they shouldn't have voting rights. And if they're not involved in the political system, then you wouldn't be able to blame them for that, because then it would be a system only decided upon by men. But you can't say that they don't deserve it or they didn't ask for it, because they quite literally did. Female voting is part and parcel for a lot of reasons why we are experiencing these things. And it's not just women voting. It also goes into the way that they defend it with like the social reinforcement and the social institutions. They defend it every step of the way. If you even begin to talk about limiting immigration and things like that, you'll be surrounded by a bunch of crazy leftists and women who are going to be screaming at you, racist, racist, racist. So to say that they're not culpable or accountable in any way is insane. You can't say that. They are partly responsible for it. Not wholly, but they largely are part of the reason.
Whole concept of the faith, the whole point of it, is that Christ died on the cross, so thankfully, Andrew, you and I have the potential to not reap what we sow. And in exchange, he asks that we try just a bit to be like him, and have some humility in the process. Instead, what we see here is...
Sorry to pause it one more time, but there's a difference between temporal consequences and decisions that you make temporally on the physical realm here on earth than the difference between the sin and the way that reflects upon you in the kingdom, in your spiritual, your soul. Two different distinctions. I won't be able to explain it nearly as good as a Joel Eben can, but there's a distinction between the categories here, between temporally on earth. It's the same way as in God, Jesus will forgive you of your sins, but that doesn't mean that the judge looks at someone who is a, serial killer and says, well, Jesus would forgive you, so I do too. We're going to let you walk free. That's insane. That is retarded. But again, she's bluntly throwing everything in together. She's not thinking in categories nor distinctions, nor would she, because I don't even think she even understands what she's talking about broadly.
Andrew Wilson loudly advocating the exact opposite of this message while claiming to be a crucible that purifies the faith. And in doing so, seemingly reaps what he's sown and having to be ashamed of his family. And Andrew isn't the only one trying to cultivate this sort of based signaling Christian audience with a public profile. There's a whole sort of community online of these people who have ridden the coattails of the Manosphere world in becoming eternal course-selling podcasters, but use God as their main branding. I first came across alleged pastor Joel Webbin because one of his based signaling tweets that went...
That's crazy. Did you catch what she said? Alleged pastor. So she actually went a lot harder on him than I thought she was going to. Catch this one more time.
But use God as their main branding. I first came across alleged pastor Joel Webbin.
Whoo! Man. Hey, everybody, we will turn to... No, come on now. Second, I have authority. I will now, let me tell you why you're doing all these bad Christian things. You're not a Christian, but I'm also going to ignore my rule. It's insane, dude.
Because one of his based signaling tweets that went semi-viral, young men are waking up. Women will learn to have a quiet and gentle spirit, or they will learn to be alone. Deus fault. It's so cringe. You simply cannot tell me that this tweet, young women are waking up, men will learn to stop being incels, or they will learn to be alone, do better, is not exactly the same as what Joel Webbin tweeted. It's just gender war gobbledygook with virtue or based signaling at the end. Do better. Men are trash. Educate yourself. Deus vault. It's the same little end tagline to tell your audience, I'm morally superior. In the progressive field, you look at something like educate yourself, and it's this moral signaling of higher intelligence. With Webbin, I'd argue it's almost worse, because it's my gender war slop posting for clicks is ordained by God, Deus Vult. This is a common behavior for Webben, though, who was, for whatever reason, attending CPAC a few weeks ago, in which he tweeted, "My biggest takeaway from CPAC, the youth are ours. We were recognized everywhere. Staffers, media, college group presidents, influencers, and political candidates. Everyone who loved us was under 40 and completely aligned on the big issues. The next generation
She's
won't
such a
support
feminist,
Israel.
dude.
They are done with egalitarianism. They are not race blind. Even women we talked to agreed women probably shouldn't vote. Time's up." And Joel, I just have one question for you. Just one question. Why are none of your big issues Jesus? It's already weird that a pastor is attending CPAC as a political activist, but to go there and say your big issue is to be done with women voting, this is the right-wing version of defund the police. The police are not going anywhere unless the
This argument just literally makes no sense at all. Literally no sense at all. She's now attacking Webben because everything he says in every post of his doesn't have Jesus in it. You're not playing your role, Webben. You're not doing what all the other weak and cucked Christian pastors have done. Come on, Webben. Just do the megachurch thing. Just do what Kenneth Copeland did and stand in a big stage and say, "I love Jesus," and ignore all of the other contemporary issues that actually affect people. That's insane. This is quite literally insane. This woman is insane. Whoever commissioned this video is insane. And maybe they're trying to sabotage Lauren Southern, but this is bad. And I don't know what audience she's trying to cultivate here, but this is effing awful. And maybe that's all she has left. Is maybe the last group of people who will even accept her is a bit of the reformed horse. And maybe that's where the direction she's going. Is she's going to pick back up a little bit on this Christian path. Maybe not go the full Nala Ray element. But maybe that's the last group that'll have her, is all of the absolutely batshit crazy reformed whores who defend tooth and nail. And to show you how insane a lot of these people are, I highlighted this yesterday. One of the girls in this space, she goes by Lizzie on X. She's a bit more one of the prominent accounts. She's actually debated with Andrew Wilson before. And what she posted yesterday was more insanity. There was a viral post going around, I believe it was yesterday early in the morning, or maybe it was the day before, of two gay men holding their baby and laughing at it because the baby was calling for its mom and it cried. And it's a very strong and kind of just rough video to watch. But what Lizzie posts, this girl who's in the reformed whore space, who defends reformed whores day and night, she gets angry and makes a post that says, if you're publicly attacking LGBTQ, but you have a private porn addiction, this is you. And it was like an AI generated photo of a guy with a massive wood piece in his eye, you know, referencing scripture. This is what they do. They have no care at all about what the truth of the word of God is. But they are broken and they are browbeaten because they actually don't have an idea of what it is to be feminine. They reject what it says in scripture and then assert themselves as the authority while also tearing down every other male authority around them because they all decided that none of it's good enough. Violating direct scripture, not being kind and gentle, not being submissive, and not letting men lead. So who is Lauren Southern to make any of these judgments? And quite frankly, any woman at all, period. I think if any woman read the Bible and came to the conclusion that they could stand on some kind of pedestal and command and tell men what to do, they've quite brutally missed one of the most important points, which is that there are distinctions. Men and women are different. And even among men and women, the differences of the tribes and the nations and the ethnicities are also important. But alas, here we are.
state collapses. You guys are all LARPing.
Now it's time for the final battle. Magic missile! Magic missile! Magic missile! Magic missile!
Ending women voting is just another plot line of the culture war cinematic universe. And it is kind of cute when Zoomers are running around dressed up like Marvel characters pretending to blast laser beams at each other. But when pastors in their 40s and 50s are doing it, what are we even doing here, man? Forgive me for saying something that may be a little controversial.
Okay, now she's just pissing me off. This is... The post that she referenced was them actually at a political action group or action coalition or whatever it's called, talking about how they are recognized because of the work they have done, because of the influence they have been building and growing because of what they've been doing. And that's Joel Webben, and I forget the two guys that are typically with them, but that quite literally is not them LARPing. That's them doing the work. That's what it looks like in politics, which is to speak and do these things in public and with these posts. That's the name of the game anymore. And to say that that's LARPing is insane. Like, is it just a big joke to you? Like the fact that that young men actually look up to these guys, that's a joke to her. That's LARPing to them. Because in her world, these men need to be told to shut the hell up, and they need to submit and be servant leaders to their women, and women run the home. Because that's the reality that she wants to force upon people. And with feminism being as strong as it is, we got damn near close to it. And it's because of voices like Andrew Wilson, like Andrew Tate, as unfortunate as it is, and like Joel Webben and more, Nick Fuentes, many more, men are fighting back against it. And if anything, we're quite honestly winning on the digital side of the space. But this is insane. I mean, it's just angering too, because she looks at it and she laughs at it when she sees young men waking up and fighting and trying to be better and following these influences instead of these other, these cucked ones. She hates it. I mean, like, quite frankly, I think that it bothers her deep down. Like, she hates that young men are returning to tradition. I think she truly hates it deep down.
But whether it be politicians or pastors, my hope is that they are better people than me. And yes, I do think they should be held to a higher standard than the average person if you are claiming to be a leader for God. But I'm not sure. I don't think these people are really looking to court a Christian community at all. In fact, when I went down the Joel Webben rabbit hole, it led me all the way to a place where I learned from Webben himself that apparently Christians are actually just fake and gay.
What do you see as the greatest threat to Christian nationalism as it's trying to make its roots?
Christians.
How so?
Christians are gay. Fake and gay, to be more precise.
Webben tried.
And I want you to know, too, the person that she's quoting here, Eli McGowan, is a disgraced individual in the Christian community. The amount of group chats and lies that this guy has pushed has made him one of the worst figures in all of the space. I mean, even to the point that even like guys who aren't even aligned up with Joel Webben and others also recognize the fact that this guy is a liar and a subverter. All he does is try to pretend to get screenshots to post them that they're not being holy enough. Because this guy too is also a cucked feminist. He is an egalitarian. He's an alienist, right? And there's probably a better way to describe the distinctions between some of these camps. You have kinist and you have alienist. Kinists are ones who read the Bible for what it is. Alienists are the ones who try to inject into scripture what is not there. And the big distinction being the egalitarian nature of it, right? The kinists are ones who practice the I love my family, and then I love my tribe, my community, my people, my nation. The alienists just destroy all of those distinctions, despite all the scripture speaking otherwise to that. It's insane.
Gay. Fake and gay.
Yeah, the Longhouse. The Longhouse is a great reference.
Webben tried to defend this by saying fake equals hypocrite, gay equals effeminate. Yes, the church is plagued by religious hypocrites, fake, and cowardly, effeminate, gay men. But why did you say it that way? Because I knew it would offend, and the offense ensures that my point wasn't missed. A very astute poster noted, Webben, that's not how it works. Prioritizing causing offense over being clear does the exact opposite of making sure people don't miss your point. To be fair, it took me a long time to learn that one myself, but I got there eventually. This clip was part of a documentary on Christian nationalism Webben was working on. And apparently, after getting some, how do you put it, pushback on this clip, they deleted the entire trailer it was a part of, to which Twitter user Will Spencer criticized this move as being damage control. His statement would have been far more powerful.
I'm going to move myself here for a second again, because again, this man right here, Will Spencer, is another one of these subverters. Now, Will Spencer is a lot tied into people like Doug Wilson. Doug Wilson, somebody who's pushing things like no hide laws and other bullshit. He is quite frankly, has betrayed all of the young people who have betrayed everything that he previously once said. He attacks people like Samuel Holden, calls him a federal agent for all the things that he posts. Will Spencer, this guy right here, had set up a podcast, I believe he actually did have the podcast with Stone Choir. So Woe and Corey Mahler. And instead of actually airing the episode, and I forget the exact details at this point, but he didn't air the episode and then turned around and attacked both of them. And so it was like another one of these guys who like got into a setup. And I think you could probably find it on Woe's page as well, or Corey Mahler's. But they have all the text and screenshots to show that this guy basically had no intention of actually doing the episode and only got close to them so he could turn it around and make a post and make content about how supremacist and Nazi and racist they are. These people are disgusting scum. But go ahead, Lauren. Who else are we going to bring up here?
If he had simply said, Christians are hypocritical and effeminate. But hypocritical and effeminate are concrete words that imply an objective standard, one that he himself could be held to. By contrast, fake and gay are insults, which is why Joel wasn't making helpful observations about ways Christians could change and grow in manliness and integrity. He was insulting them from an assumed position of superiority. And I think this is a solid analysis, but I sort of disagree with the idea that the post was deleted because Webben was afraid of having an objective standard he could be held to. I actually think that's giving him way too much credit. I think it was deleted because people didn't like it. And the point of based signaling is to get updoots. Give me positive attention and accolades. Fake and gay is a based signaling term like Deus Vult. You say this to get your right-wing friends riled up, to get the people going. And the funniest part about it all to me is I know part of the reason that the online religious sphere, especially in based signaling circles, would call or criticize modern evangelicals and Protestants as being fake and gay is because they've let go of a lot of liturgical traditions in favor of modern things. If you've ever seen accounts like Pastors with Props on Reels or Woke Protestant Nonsense on X, it's just making fun of pastors for basically turning their churches into an NSYNC concert, getting overtly progressively political, or mocking youth pastors for including Zoomer memes like 6-7 in their sermon.
It says in verse 10, you will know that the living God is among us.
But how is Webben any different from this?
There,
how? A grown pastor using fake and gay in their vocabulary is the same cringe to me as using 6-7 or Among Us. Only, at least the pastor using the Among Us meme he's not trying to insult people for clicks. He's still keeping that intrinsic message of loving everyone intact.
If you think Christianity and as a degenerate society as we have today would be anything but offensive, you have no idea what you are talking about. At all. Period. Point blank. End of story. Because the truth is more often than not the most second qualifying characteristic is it is almost always offensive to the people who hear it. The truth is almost always something someone does not want to hear. It is not, you can keep doing all of that. Like, no. That's crazy to me. And it goes back to this idea that, again, Christianity is just that Jesus said, be nice sometime. That's what she's pushing at the end of the day. It's that hippie meme of Jesus with the glasses on, just going, I just said, just be nice that one time. And that was basically it. That's all I was. That's all my commandments. And then if you believe in me, that's all it really is. It's just such a reductive and really, if anything, it's a tragic reduction of what Christianity actually is. And a lot of this return to tradition is because young men are trying to actually bring back the robust nature of what Christianity is and recover from this kind of brutal subversion that's happened over the last 150 years.
Well, being a bit cringe. And I'm not sure that Webben has fully integrated the idea that even right-wing people who use this vocabulary, they're pretty uncomfortable with the idea of their pastors partaking in the based ritual. It gives a bit of a hello, fellow kids vibe. But more importantly, I don't think spiritual leaders should be trying to become characters fighting for a team in the culture war cinematic universe, as it is perhaps one of the most vulgar places to exist in the world. In fact, I quite literally and metaphorically think it may be hell. Yeah, hell. Who among us has not been eaten by the beasts we once fed? I know I have, and while I mention Andrew Wilson avoiding talking about his wife's history to keep the beasts at bay, the truth is, even if he were a far humbler man, I understand why someone might hesitate. And not just because of bots or religious-based signalers looking for sinners to publicly stone, but because the online environment itself has become hostile to anything human. It has zero interest in forgiving perceived failure or, God forbid, cringe. All you have to do is look at the recent viral discourse on X around a man discussing his wife's promiscuous past. On March 23rd, Andrew Sheets posted a photo of himself and his wife and wrote that she had once lived promiscuously while he had been a virgin, and that she later became radically born again, committed deeply to church life, prayer, repentance, and then after 5 years of being together, she had become an excellent wife. Now, I honestly can't tell you if this is rage bait or a PR stunt, given the guy owns a Christian online marketing firm.
Hey,
we help sound Christian ministries
this out.
grow their social media by 50% in 3 months. 35.5 million views and trended for like 5 days. So I guess, man, I guess it works. Even if we give the ultimate charity here and assume this was done in the most sincere way possible, though, I probably wouldn't advise posting this sort of information to X. Why? Because X is hell. One of my favorite books of all time is The Great Divorce by C.S. Lewis, where hell is imagined as a place called Greytown. And Greytown is brilliant because nobody there quite admits they're in hell or really knows it. Everyone still thinks they're just temporarily inconvenienced in some kind of holding place purgatory. They can conjure houses, possessions, whatever they want at any point, but everything there is thin, joyless, and unsatisfying. And every conversation in Greytown is grievance-driven, self-justification, and moral posturing. Also, technically,
well, if it's a book a woman read sometime, I mean, it's like, I'm probably not going to read it. But here's the X is all bots. It's just, you know, it's grievance. This is what Ben Shapiro actually put forward the other day, right? Which is that Ben Shapiro is a part of the American exceptionalist on X, and everyone else who disagrees with him on X is a part of a bipartisan grievance party. They're all just angry. They're all just complaining. It's so sad and such a weak, and if anything, unintelligent way to actually engage with all of the claims against what is being put forward. Oh, they're just all complaining. Oh, they all just hate women. This whole thing is just super lazy.
People can leave Greytown at any moment. There is a bus to heaven there, but no one acknowledges the bus goes to heaven, and they don't fully understand where it goes, and most people are just too prideful to leave. They're like, no, I chose the right place to be, and it's here. And those who do get on the bus, when they finally get to heaven, they find the reality and solidity of it far too sharp. Like, the grass feels like razor blades under their feet, the light's way too bright, everything is too demanding and too real. And the whole point is that before they can exist comfortably in heaven, they have to become more substantial themselves. They have to grow in depth and density of soul, which is why it feels like such a perfect metaphor for X. Because reality is hard. And X offers a permanent alternative, a place where you can avoid the difficult work of becoming or doing anything substantial by endlessly performing the appearance of significance. You can moral posture all day, hit like and repost, call that activism, edit your photos instead of going to the gym, manufacture identities, block strangers, start arguments, win arguments, lose arguments, announce victories that no one's going to remember.
And so now we're going with the internet's not real argument. Now we're going to, this woman who's a Trump supporter, hear me out. This woman was a Trump supporter who literally won largely because of the great meme war. Discourse has been getting decided, and people have been getting the great changes that have been happening in our society, the return to tradition, the bringing in of a lot more of this kind of Nick Fuentes generational run. All of this was because of largely Elon's purchase of X and the allowance of Nick and other figures to come back on to a platform that rivaled things like Facebook and YouTube and otherwise. For her to now say that it's all fake and it's all fake activism is ridiculous. We're watching as Fishback's campaign right now has largely got the wind in its sails because of a lot of this digital push and the online push he's making, married to the America First movement. Again, a very weak and lazy argument. It's just saying they think they're doing something online. This is what boomers say. She's now having to peddle a boomer argument And it's just, again, it's so lazy.
Hours later, all without ever logging off long enough to confront the stubborn difficulty of changing anything real. So on X, we all just wander Greytown, calling each other names all day. And for reasons known only to God and apparently engagement metrics, Andrew Sheets decided to walk into Greytown Town Square, grab a loudspeaker, and announce his wife's sexual history to a starving mob. Naturally, they began throwing tomatoes. And as someone who has been on the receiving end of my life becoming public theater countless times, often due to my own stupidity, I've just learned that enduring some degree of mockery is part of logging on. What you gonna do? But because this video is specifically about performative Christianity, what interested me most is that Sheets' post kind of became almost a perfect theological stress test, and a remarkable number of self-described Christians failed it like instantly. Because here's the thing, whether you find his post cringe or not, the theology is technically solid. You can criticize it for being self-aggrandizing, posted with the wrong intentions, etc., etc.
Corey, what did this moron broad do again? She had sexual relations with Destiny, and now she thinks that she can see sound and is telling Christians how to behave. That's a summary of what's going on here.
But if you don't like the idea that someone who was sexually promiscuous, or someone who is even a hooker, or a criminal, or a murderer, could be spiritually redeemed, Christianity is not the religion for you. Christianity is radically offensive precisely because it keeps insisting that grace interrupts human ranking systems. Pride must die, ego must die, all that. So Christianity insists that your instinct to rank yourself morally above someone else is often the very thing putting you spiritually in danger, which, after a month here of delving into Christian Twitter X, my entire feed is now essentially just this. The religious community repeatedly trying to place themselves above one another. I mean, you could even say Sheets' own post where he describes his wife as more pure than most virgins. Is that to glorify God, or is that to tear down other women? I don't know. But I do know bitter battles all day about whether Mary is an eternal virgin, debunking the Pope, saying all Catholics or all Protestants are going to hell, saying Sheets' wife is a whore. It's kind of giving hell. It's kind of giving hell vibes. To quote one guy responding to Sheets' post, if Twitter was my only interaction with Christianity, I would be an atheist. And I actually love the interaction he had with another guy right after this. Have you considered that maybe this place is actually satanic? Sure do have a lot of posts on here. Probably can't quit, huh? You have 5.3 thousand and you joined in January. Shut Bro, I need help too, dude. Fair enough. Ironically, that bro, I need help too, dude, is the closest thing you're going to find to online Christianity. And you know what? I believe in you too. You can do it. You can escape, guys. You got this. Seriously, the saddest part of all this
The saddest part is, again, how lazy this is. Ignoring the fact that why do these arguments even happen? Is if they're part of the reason why a lot of the like why Orthodox and Catholics view Protestants as being so. So if you guys are right, which denomination is right? Which sect is right? These things matter, especially for a religion that relies on the truth. And so if the truth is a objective reality or is an objective thing, these arguments are in the search. They are seeking for what that truth is. And when they view a different sect to be holding or pushing something that is not truth, of course they're going to demean it or denigrate it or attack it or contradict it. But to her, this is all, they're just arguing. Why are we not doing the buddy Jesus thing? Why are we all just not clapping hands and ignoring each other's differences and pretending like it? Because it matters. And she's trying to push again this argument that it somehow doesn't matter. Of course it matters. But again, should I expect any different from this already? We're 50 minutes into maybe the laziest breakdown of the online situation I've seen.
Discourse, though, is that almost everyone involved actually has a human story worth hearing. But the second it gets pushed through the public performance machine, everything becomes flat. Because the way Sheets' original post reads is basically, my wife partied, converted, and now she's morally superior to half of you virgins. Which understandably lands like, look at all you losers abstaining for nothing, while others got to speedrun chaos and emerge spiritually elite. But that's not the story at all. In reality, Sheets' wife's testimony is really quite tragic and nuanced. His wife grew up without a father, was exposed to porn at 11, drifted into drugs, sex, and new age circles as a young teen, and was later groomed, controlled, and abused by a 50-year-old cult leader. She became suicidal, overdosed multiple times, and nearly died before eventually turning her life around at 18. But none of this depth survives the format of virality, because once it hits X, it just immediately becomes symbolic ammunition where people read it as, men, you must forgive and marry the OnlyFans girl while staying pure yourself, or you're a bad Christian, which is obviously ridiculous. Just the mere image of the equally deranged Manosphere fantasy where men are encouraged to sleep with everyone and then retire into moral purity by marrying the tattoo-free virgin. Most people are probably best suited to partners whose histories, values, and wounds make sense to them personally. But, you know, that's just a boring conversation. It's bland. No one wants to listen to that. All of this, I think, could be sorted out in like a 5-minute adult conversation between someone like Sheets and someone criticizing him, but none of that is going to draw attention or clicks. You know what does? You know what does draw attention and clicks? Sex. Loud, exaggerated, inflammatory conversations about sex. Because sex drives engagement online. Partly because outrage sells, and partly because people are obviously a little obsessed with it. Half the internet is porn, and the other half is arguing about porn-adjacent things while pretending that's somehow spiritually elevated. It's been noted, quite accurately in my opinion, by many ex-evangelicals that sexual sin often gets treated as uniquely scandalous in a lot of Christian spaces, but Scripture warns just as strongly about pride, self-righteousness, hardness of heart, and contempt for others. But we all know pride and hardness of heart are not going to generate 30 million views. So once again, this is just another way that Christian discourse becomes horrendously disordered in the era of the internet. Because once...
Yeah, and this is another good point here too, that gets lost in this, because she's trying to reduce everything and expect that like that a 5-minute conversation could explain the salvation element here and the biological natures of women. It's like, no, it can't be solved in a 5-minute conversation. But again, she's trying to reduce everything down to the reason that all this is happening is because there's bots pushing it and it's edgy, and there's pastors who want to be offensive, and it's just all bullshit. But Chad Norman says she's missing the bigger picture that once a female is promiscuous, she can't reverse the psychological and biochemical damage. All we can do is prevent younger females ever doing that. And like as it says in the Bible, right, it is like if you have relations with a woman, you are supposed to take her as a wife. That's the call. It's like if you have relations with a woman, that's your wife now. You have taken a woman to wed. She is your wife now. That's how it treats it. Like the Bible is very clear about this. It's like once you have sexual relations, like that is the wife. That is your partner. That's the intention there. So you can't ignore all of this and then chuck it all up. And she even recognizes that society's obsessed with sex. But that's the whole point of why you're seeing this response in the first place from the men. It's not the men who are the ones who are obsessed with sex because they're partaking in it. The men are the one who are obsessed with sex because it's the lack of, the vacuum of which many men are not even involved in the sexual marketplace, period, that you're seeing these responses. You're seeing the calls for repealing the 19th. You're seeing the calls for a return to patriarchy, removing the matriarchy, because these problems are leading to much more negative, huge externalities, huge consequences in the societal sphere. I mean, for example, what's the leading cause of death for men, young men ages up to 30, 18 to 30 in the United States? It's suicide. Why is that? Because of all of these things that are downstream from this problem. But she wants you to shut up, get married to some random person, or maybe not even get married, who knows? But she just wants you to stop talking about it because it's all just not helping anybody. And it's just a sad, low effort, lazy way to try to even begin. And this is a video essay. You had an hour and 10 minutes of content, and it was some of the laziest shit I've ever seen put in a video. But we got 20 minutes left.
You introduce engagement or marketing, it's going to be the most exciting sins that will always be the most discussed, even if they're not necessarily the most spiritually destructive or widespread. In fact, the idea itself of a ranking system for sins, or even consequences like burning in hellfire with pitchforks for eternity, blah, 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 all this stuff that gets thrown around online, none of those things are necessarily biblical. They are allegories that aren't even from the Bible. A lot of Christian imagery, in fact, and popular ideas have just been pulled from imaginative literature like Milton's Paradise Lost or Dante's Divine Comedy. And even if we look at something like the Divine Comedy, Dante places the lustful, those who have been involved in sexual sin, relatively high in the Inferno, while sins tied to pride, fraud, betrayal, and cold-hearted spiritual corruption descend much deeper. So essentially, the based signalers...
Hold on, someone could correct me on this. Actually, I'm pretty weak on Dante's Inferno. House probably knows more than I do. But isn't Dante's Inferno like not a accurate or even anything really based in much as any kind of, you know, where does Dante's Inferno even come from, right? So that's what kind of like the reference she's making is because there's layers to this. It is a work of fiction. Thank you. I need to get stronger on this. I know I've seen some posts talking about the Dante's Inferno, and it's got like the layers of hell. So she's making this point because sexual sins are higher in the rings of hell that really we should be looking at these other sins. It's literally crazy.
Using Christianity for internet points and telling everyone they're gonna burn in hellfire, they are placed much lower in Dante's vision of hell that they are referencing than people who have a bit of a slutty past.
Interesting.
So the Christian question is not who has the cleaner resume.
Thank you.
It is who has repented, who is humble, and who understands their need for grace. And this is exactly why the Gospel of Luke gives us the prodigal son. The scandal of that story is not the reckless son returning, it's the older brother being just furious that grace is being given so freely. Because he did everything right, and still cannot tolerate mercy being extended to someone who failed publicly. That is the deeper flaw Christ points at, not simply sin, but resentment towards forgiveness itself. And that remains one of Christianity's most offensive ideas to proud people, that grace often feels profoundly unfair. And we saw that in some of the responses to Sheets. However, I think one thing I sympathize with that puts skepticism into hyperdrive in the online age is the fact that online, it's usually not just grace alone being given, but attention, applause, new audiences, speaking opportunities, money, and influence, which changes the conversation entirely. Because now the question is not simply whether someone is being forgiven, it's whether redemption itself has become a product, which is where the story of the prodigal son can be abused. And that brings us to performative redemption.
Okay, Russell Brand is
When I
pretty
wrote my book that I
performative, though.
published last summer, I talked openly about a lot of failures in my own life. Messy relationships, drugs, clout chasing, all of it. But I also wrote about some of the healthier things that came after that. How I built routines, how I stepped back from the internet, how I think my relationship with God became more honest and less theatrical. But I was very careful not to frame it as some grand redemption arc because I'm writing a memoir at 30.
Yeah, all this talk about how all these other people are terrible, but no mention at all, period, about the whole scandal that you literally are not even a year removed from. Like, it's crazy work here. Shameless, if anything. Chad Norman says that we're not even against redemption. Forgive me. We're against this long-term strategy of modern women of indulging is lust with the plane of insincerity, redeeming themselves as the near 30. And yeah, don't forget about the New York Times bestseller, guys. But that's probably a better way to explain it or articulate it, which is to say that because it is such a rampant problem, we need to be taking the pro approach to young men to give them better advice, better ways to find themselves in the dating market. And it should be, as we argue, it should be a prominent thing that's discussed, which is to say that men should not be looking to for their first option to take a wife as a woman who is ran through, or a woman who has a extremely promiscuous past, because of all of the things that have come with it. And the better argument to make here too is that people like Lizzie and others, they'll argue that because now that she believes or has begun this path of redemption, it's not the question how true or sincere it is, although I think there's elements to that too, but it's this, we're making the point that now because she is reformed and now does believe, that does not wipe away. She does not become a blank slate in terms of the physical and the temporal, which is to say that there are biological realities of what occurs when you do have sexual relations. And this goes to like the DNA exchange and the fact that even children that she'll have, say a woman has sex with a man at like 19, her children, when she's giving birth at like 30, there's still percent chances that those children will have the DNA from the first man. Because these are realities about a woman. And it goes much beyond that too. Both the pair bonding and things like that. And what a lot of the people get angry at, myself included, from these reformed whore arguments, is that somehow because now she believes in Jesus, that's all wiped away. And that somehow that won't affect the marriage in any form. And that is bullshit. And that's the lie. And that's what men are pushing against. But because if you argue against that, they look at you as if you're rejecting the divine ability. You're rejecting the grace of God. You're rejecting the ability of Jesus Christ to redeem souls. And that's not the argument being made. But they have to obfuscate that, because the reality would be that this woman should actually be relegated. She should be put in a situation where her options to marry are like a man who's lost his wife, right? It should be like, that should be the option of a woman who has a promiscuous past. She should be met up with someone who has also had previous partners. That would be a better way to kind of deviate these things and not build up this kind of fake idea that a man's going to have nothing to worry about if he goes with that. So again, there's a lot there, but again, it goes back to, again, this very weak and lazy way to explain it. And it's just overall, it just lacks effort, and it's very reductive.
You could catch me in 2 years doing crack and espionage for China. I have no idea. I know myself well enough, though, to know human beings do not arrive in one clean final form and then remain there forever. So even if what I'm saying now is true, that doesn't mean I am permanently finished becoming a disaster. I can promise you that. And that mattered to me, which is why I got super triggered when I saw one of the, albeit few, negative reviews of my book that called it performative redemption slop. The basic criticism was this, that it resembled a familiar evangelical genre. The dramatic...
Well, I want to see what he said. Notice that Miss Southern had an evangelical upbringing, so did I. That community has a genre of early on guest preachers and speakers, and then also books and memoirs, which present performative redemption, viewed charitably. The point is to bring the message of salvation by first presenting the sinful life which preceded repentance, baptism, and the better life they now live. Nikki Cruz' Run Baby Run is one of the most spectacular examples, from switchblade-carrying gang member to witness for Jesus, a stunning trajectory. Sorry, it's so little I can't read without my glasses. In our church, we heard many story arcs of the same type. I was lost, but now I'm found. This book presents exactly the same narrative arc translated to the political realm. Southern even has tales of wanton drug-fueled hedonism, a mainstay of the evangelical message template. Obviously, God bless, I would far rather have the preacher Nikki Cruz and the late-stage Lauren Southern than their previously unreconstructed versions. That said, the performative aspect undermines the message for me. In the evangelical community, no one was going to be invited to speak at congregations across America to tell about their life as an insurance salesman with a family who never went to church and then tried it, repented, and was baptized. It's just not a compelling story. So Southern has a turnaround narrative. This one feels really performative. There's a book which she and the publishers want to sell. There's the spotlight, the attention garnered by telling this particular lucrative story in this way. Perhaps we can learn something from the causes she blames related to the internet. I can't unhear all those performative salvation narratives that I grew up with, nor the spotlight seeking and reverse bragging they contained, quote, I was so bad. Whatever those elements are, I hear them in this case. That's crazy. And listen, he wasn't really being that offensive. That's not even an offensive thing. He stung, dude. He got the uppercut in. He was like, you don't know me, but... He's like, hey, you don't know me, but... Boom, dude. She's like... Shh. You know, it's like that scene from Invincible. Nolan gets sucked in. That's good. I like that.
Of my book that called it
she hates that
performative redemption slop. The basic criticism was this, that it resembled a familiar evangelical genre. The dramatic testimony arc. I was lost. I was sinful. I was reckless. Now I'm found. Now I understand. Now buy my book. And I understood exactly what this critic meant, even if I don't think that's fully what I wrote, because I felt that temptation. The temptation to say, I'm good now. Those mistakes belong to the old me, and I have emerged from the fire carrying wisdom for the masses. It is so seductive to do that because it gives your life a narrative shape. It lets you become coherent and turns all of the regrets you've ever had into new branding. And if I'm honest, I mean, maybe like the viewer suggested, I did lean toward that. shape in parts of my book without fully realizing it, caveats and all, because maybe even while warning against redemption narratives, part of me still wants one or wanted one. That's just what human beings are naturally drawn toward. We're all drawn toward the most flattering version of our own story. You know, the one where we are the protagonist and we eventually emerge narratively justified. I want a cinematic tale. You want one. Everyone wants that. We want our lives to make sense. I think of T.S. Eliot's Murder in the Cathedral, where Archbishop Thomas Becket knows he's going to be killed for opposing the political order of his time. And he's doing something that is good, like objectively a moral thing to do. But even he has to sit there and confront whether he is just acting on principle or whether a part of him is thinking more about the glory of martyrdom. Like, I want a cool story. I want people to think I'm the good guy. It's not just about doing the good thing. Because that's just how obsessed we are with a good story, in ways where even the deepest of virtue.
Tix said throw it back? Tix, come on now, dude. Tix, you're married, man. He's on my channel telling Lauren to throw it back. No, just that was funny. I would.
We can pursue become vanity.
From where I'm at
you
right
can
now,
do the right thing for reasons that are completely crooked. We get so attached to things like our own suffering because all of this makes us feel narratively important. And once again, I feel myself doing this in real time. I have to be so careful about not letting my mind rewrite reality into something cleaner than it is. Because performance for someone like me who grew up online, it's not just an occasional temptation, it is my baseline programming. And I have watched both myself and people that I know sink so deeply into that programming of always putting on a performance for the audience that eventually there's almost nothing underneath it. No stable self or core values, just total audience capture. Just looking to the next role or reinvention, the next identity that preserves attention. That is the entire culture of the internet right now. I mean, look at someone like Clavicular. They're constantly having to do the next big, exciting thing, constantly having to manufacture a new kind of drama to stay in the public eye. It's part of the reason that I've taken so much time.
Well, of course, he's the content king. He's got to be doing the next content. And now she's about to sit here. Of course, she doesn't understand ascending. It's crazy. Look at all these frames, dude. Look how performative you have to be to catch this many frames. I just pause you in any video. It's like I could add that exact head to a YouTube video. Lauren Southern reacts to. Like, that's crazy, dude. But here's the thing. Like, Clav is content king. He has to. Will Clav respond? No. Lauren, delete this before Clav finds it. No. Lauren, you have to get rid of this right now. Clav is coming for you. He just caught a plane from Florida. Lauren, you have to flee America now.
Off the internet to try to build a self outside of the different online projections and identities I've had. And yet still, as I work on this video, I spend hours thinking about how I'm going to be perceived. I can't get rid of that. So I'm just increasingly trying to acknowledge that there's always an aspect of performance, and there always will be. I think the biggest danger begins when we pretend otherwise, because the moment we deny the performance that we are putting on, we become vulnerable to other people's performances too, and we stop seeing reality. Take a look at someone like Milo Yiannopoulos. A few years ago, Milo announced he was ex-gay, began appearing in overtly religious spaces, selling statues of Mary, talking publicly about opening gay conversion centers, and presenting.
Clarifies 1,000 miles worth of it to say no. He just pulls up. He pulls up and he says, "You're not allowed. You're not coming on the roster." Gets back in the plane, leaves. "Sorry, you're not on the roster. You can't get on the lineup." He shows up just to give her a card that says, "You've been banned from my nightclub." Not welcome here.
Presenting himself as if he had entered a dramatic new spiritual chapter. And I say this without any moral outrage, just observationally. Anyone with even a modest amount of worldly wisdom could tell Milo was still being Milo. Because Milo has always been, above all else, a profoundly performative person. He understands attention almost instinctively. And everyone I knew who has worked in politics saw
Better than
right
those
through this
females.
immediately because they understand that public identity is often half conviction, half production, and sometimes less than half conviction. And sure enough, recently he announced essentially that he is in fact still gay. Or
Forgot about
ex-gay.
that.
Which felt less like shocking breaking news and more like somebody confirming that the sky still remains operationally blue.
Isn't it crazy that Milo is like a conservative influencer, and every other like 6 months he gets a post with like some ridiculous black dude, and he's like, "I'm back in the closet, everybody," and like he keeps going. Like he's if there's a definition of like an enigma or like a phenomena, it's him. He is like the. You know, it's not an endorsement of him. I don't care for him, but he is like he's the outlier, right? He's over here somewhere. He still exists. It's crazy.
And yet somehow I still saw overtly religious accounts reacting as though they had witnessed a metaphysical betrayal. So it was all a lie? As if Milo had just shattered a long-standing reputation for quiet interior sincerity.
Highly disturbed.
And I think part of why this shock happens is that when religion is absorbed primarily through internet culture, you inherit largely the language without any of the depth. Like, if you take a look at this guy's account, it's almost entirely, follow me if you think everything is gay now. Follow me if you don't like Somalis. Follow if you like Christian memes, coomers, trannies, my girlfriend has balls. Follow me. When your religious views are base signaling and follows, it's
Is this about Milo or Lauren? I will await your response. He says yes to both. No, I was just playing. He says that. He falls into the not. That's hilarious. Appreciate the super chat, brother. Thank you. Yeah, guys, she's just, giving her opinions, of which I disagree with all of them. We're so
no
close,
surprise
so
you fall
far
for
to
people who
finishing
are also
this
just
video.
based signaling for follows. There's no there. It's all surface level social group signaling for clout.
Send a $2
Although
super
honestly,
chat to
with Milo,
clarify.
I don't even know at this point if it's in-group signaling so much as it's just
appreciate
getting
you guys.
paid to say this stuff or click farming, because what even is this? It's Catholics and Muslims versus Protestants and Jews. Be on the right side of the line when the curtain comes down. I don't even know what's going on anymore. I don't know, guys.
I don't know what's going on, but here's an hour and 10-minute video of me pretending like I have an idea of what's going on. And look at this frame. Did you get like plastic surgery or something? Probably. I don't know what's going on. I'm not going to mention the Jews. Classic.
Now, the other side of this, why people fall for public redemption stories, I think often comes from a much more sincere place. Because a lot of genuinely faithful Christians project their own moral instincts onto public figures. They think, I wouldn't lie about God, so why would he? And because of that, they often don't have a strong theory of mind for just how performative media personalities can become after years of living in front of cameras. And on top of that, Christians are understandably hopeful. They want to believe that someone has changed. They want to see public affirmation of faith, which is why the sudden public conversion of someone like Russell Brand lands so powerfully. For most of his public life, Brand was associated with a very different moral and intellectual posture.
Yeah.
Atheism, libertine sexuality, progressive politics, new age language, whatever the mood and the era required. Then, after public collapse, sexual assault allegations, and criminal charges in the UK, he suddenly has this highly visible Christian turn. Now, the charitable interpretation of this is very emotionally satisfying, sinner to redeemed. Whereas skeptics might think,
So not as she literally on one end defending the depth and the grace of this reformed whore, now turning around and then arguing the opposite for a man. Like, come on, you gotta have some consistency here. I will say, Russell Brand, I have no problems with the guy, but tell me why anytime I've ever clicked on a video of his, it's literally he's fully shirtless. He's sitting there like a hippie and he's yelling. He's just yelling the entire time. I'm sorry. I just don't like the content. I don't know how he has a following.
That's a very convenient time to be converting there, buddy. Very convenient. And again, you know, timing proves nothing alone. But timing does explain why people ask questions.
Did you, like, reposition
Especially
his jaw?
when that turn he had is
Like
immediately
the
made
one-hand
extremely public. It wasn't like a quiet church attendance that leaked to the internet, or years of private discipleship, or even disappearing for a while to learn under a spiritual authority or something. It was an immediate public baptism by Bear Grylls. Speaking tour, podcasts,
You
and
wouldn't, if I saw a photo of you like this,
then public baptism.
any of you, I would never trust you again. You wouldn't even need to work in Hollywood. You could say, hey, dude, do you want to see this photo I got? Hey, dude, this was me at summer camp in 2018. I'd be like, dude, you got to get away from me, dude. I don't know you. Now, to be fair, this is it's a joke. You know, they're getting baptized. I've seen many photos like this. The guy's getting baptized, you know, and cheering and hugging afterwards. I'm just making a joke.
By Bear Grylls. Speaking tour, podcasts, and then almost the beginning of his own ministry overnight, including filming himself baptizing people at a zoo in front of penguins. A zoo. Can we be so for real right now? Like, it's not that baptism hasn't been public theater before, but usually it's connected to a local church
Yeah,
and
isn't the thing
community
super dirty?
accountability. You know, the Christian authority to baptize is not usually improvised 5 minutes after a personal awakening. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know that real spiritual change can happen in the public eye, because I think the temptation to perform only disappears when you step away from the stage and can hear your own thoughts. And to be clear, I can't tell you.
We just send in like 15 USS carriers equipped with the biggest JBL Bluetooth speakers you can find, you know, the waterproof ones. And they're like, you have your minefield, we have ours. And we just start deploying all the speakers out into the strait. It's just playing this video on repeat. The IRGC starts like, they start getting on the hands and knees. They're like, please, please. Then we would see the real protest.
You whether Russell Brand is being genuine.
That's funny.
I don't know his heart. People absolutely can change, but skepticism is not unreasonable either. It just means sincerity and spectacle are very hard to separate when someone has spent an entire career turning personal transformation into content, which is why I think the Bible was very deliberate to warn against exactly this.
Like, I'm gonna be honest, I think after I listen to this, I'm gonna have to go I need to go be put in a cryopod somewhere and put to sleep for 80 years. I'll see you guys in 2100.
In Matthew 6:5, Jesus says, "And when you pray, do not be like the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the street corners to be seen by others.
Nearby.
Truly I tell you, they have received their reward in full. But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen." This is not the only verse that talks about not making a public spectacle of one's faith or holiness. All of these warnings exist within the Bible for the exact purpose of preventing crowdsourced and performative Christianity. So how does one make a distinction between Christian and non-Christian if holding up crucifixes for media photos and taking pictures in Deus Vult hoodies means the opposite of Christian behavior? Well, I am reminded of an old 4chan acronym, GIRL, G-I-R-L. It stood for Guy in Real Life. Anytime someone claimed to be a woman online, people would immediately go, sure you are, buddy, sure you are. Partly because back then, a lot of political forums were overwhelmingly male, and still are, and also partly because plenty of men absolutely did and still do pretend to be women on the internet for attention, leverage, and sheer internet weirdness.
Have you guys seen all of the crazy, like the AI ones? It's like a guy with like a big motion suit on, and it's like he's made an AI porn star basically. And then you do the voice changers too. Like mine's not going to be nearly as effective, but I'll turn it on.
It's the deep one. Where's my female one?
Like you imagine like hooking up a female. It's probably rough with mine because I just have a deep voice. But you did like a female, you did a female voice changer, and then you do the dancing. You get like the big tatas.
Scary world out there, dude. And it's part of the reason why you're having such a return to tradition is because this is like, I mean, imagine a kid is like 10 years old with an unrestricted iPhone, gonna just get I mean, he's just going to get his brain peeled back by what he may see on the, on the timeline. And it's just sad. And then imagine it's like they're talking to a girl. It's what Andrew Tate was doing. Andrew Tate would hire cam girls, but then he would be the one chatting in. Like he was the one running the communications feed because men are better at doing that, I guess, than the women are. It's crazy.
Eventually, some actual women on the forum would object, saying, hey guys, some of us really are women, not girls. And the response,
I can't even hear it, so I don't even know what it sounded like.
Not exactly charitable, contained what I think is a strangely useful point. It doesn't actually matter here. Your argument still has to stand on its own, so your label proves nothing. So in that sense, on 4chan, we are all girls here, and we reject your desire to credential yourself. And honestly, I increasingly think about online Christianity the same way. A controversial thing I have landed on after all this kind of thinking about it has been, I don't really believe in Christianity online. I don't. And it's not because Christians can't use the internet, but because a cross in your bio, scripture in your username, or declaring yourself a Christian tells me nothing useful. Just like on the old forums, the label itself has no authority here. What matters is how you behave, how you treat people, what kind of spirit follows you, and whether there is really any depth there once the performance falls away. And that's the fundamental problem, isn't it? None of that is observable online. We are all characters here. Even when we are sincere, we are still selecting what to show in real time for an audience. And
so after I broadly reduced everything down to a very kind of disgusting hodgepodge of a bunch of things thrown together and made no distinctions between anything that was actually happening, I'm here to tell you I don't believe in Christianity online. Dude, this is top tier content, if you're asking me. Top S tier goes to the very top of the rankings of absolute bullshit. Like, wow.
The internet is just built to reward exactly the parts of religion that are easiest to imitate. Certainty, slogans, moral posturing, which is why, I mean, a lot of you probably already know this, but I don't think you should be looking for a spiritual authority here. Certainly not from influencers, and certainly not from politicians.
Put me in the sarcophagus.
Once again, that doesn't mean there's nothing online that has value, but spiritually, I think you have to treat it like a video game. I enjoy playing Arc Raiders, for example. I think it sharpens certain instincts. It definitely gives me dopamine. I get to catch up with friends.
That's who ratted me the other day. I was about to extract the other day on Blue Gate, and I heard a girl ratting me, dude. She shot me in the back. And this was her, dude. It had to have been her. Because, females are always nice and kind and submissive, and they would never do anything to a man, except for this one. So it had to have been her. Yeah, I do feel bad for editors. But thank you for the super chat, Mitch. I appreciate you, brother.
But I am under no illusion that it improves my actual shooting skills unless I go to a real range. And in the same way, there's nobody out here developing a spiritual life through a screen. It's like spirituality itself is about transcending the material realm. But when you're online, you're not even in the material realm. You gotta log off just to get there. And I know all of this, I get it. I know all of this sounds like my final defense of Christianity is just, well, this isn't real Christianity. The stuff you're seeing online, that's not real Christianity. And I know that people hate that. They get really annoyed when any ideology is defended this way. That wasn't real communism. Because this always sounds like somebody trying to rescue an idea by redefining it after all the damage has been done. But Christianity is genuinely unusual because the text itself, unlike something like the Communist Manifesto, spends half its time predicting this exact problem. A shocking amount of the New Testament is basically just, hey guys, a lot of people will claim spiritual authority. Many of them are just motivated by ego, power, money, or control. And many of them are going to sound super convincing, and here's how to tell. And then the remaining half is just like letters to churches already behaving terribly almost immediately. It's honestly remarkable how little optimism the New Testament has about institutional human nature. And even if you look at great, well-respected Christian writers like C.S. Lewis and T.S. Eliot, who I reference in this video.
You guys can't see it because I'm blocking it, but she's literally referencing herself. I'm not even joking you. It's her tweet that's pulled up right here.
Both of them warned incessantly that many people who call themselves Christian may not understand the word at all, and that some people who reject that label may embody it more deeply than those who publicly wear it. I cannot even begin to fathom what the two of them would say if they saw a world post-iPhone. There's just this unbridgeable divide between spiritual life and the internet, and I think that's a good thing. You know, God, if the word means anything, points towards something too large for binary code to carry. And call me crazy, but even off the internet, I just don't think God is usually found on stages with fireworks or crosses raised at the perfect moment for applause or an election. I think God is found in much quieter places. But given that one of the most universally traumatic experiences in modern life now appears to be forgetting your headphones on the bus and suddenly being forced to hear your own mind boot up, I'm not convinced many of us are sitting still long enough to feel anything deeper than distraction anymore. And I'm not even going to pretend to know the solution to that, because clearly even when I try to log off, when I write a book about logging off, it all still pulls me back in. I'm just as addicted as anybody else, and I don't know what to do. All I know is I'd like if we had fewer public prophets pretending they do. All right, guys, a few things I wanted to mention before I head out here. First of all,
is that just a woman thing? The end. Here's 2 more minutes.
Meet Moosher. This is a very important addition to my life. Her name's Mishka, but as you know, with any cat,
she's in a Hollywood movie. Here's my post-credit scene.
It goes by 400 different nicknames. Hi, Moosher. Mish Moosh.
I think she has.
And then the other things are where to find me and my relationship with the internet. Because I notice every time I make a post, put out a video, whatever, I have like thousands of people saying, oh, here she is. She's back again. She said she was quitting. First of all, I never say I'm quitting. I say I'm taking a step.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Moss.
She likes my shoulder. I never say I'm quitting. I always say I'm like taking a step back, or I'm not doing interviews, or I'm trying to get a healthier relationship with the internet. I'm not leaving forever. And the fact that so many people think there is no in between with posting every single day, monitoring the situation 24/7 on twitter.com, or, you know, just logging on when you have something to say. Come on, people. That is the quintessential problem with online politics. So, you know, you probably won't see me for another few months. I'll be in reality. But part of the reason you won't see me is because A, I've got a normie job, and B, I was actually accepted into a master's program. Now, I'm only doing like 1 class a semester because it's expensive, and normie jobs just do not pay the same as
we're almost done,
doing
guys.
stuff on the internet, which is why everyone's doing it all the time. So if you enjoyed this video and you would like to see me make more videos, maybe even put some of my essays from my schooling, I would love if you wanted to follow me on Substack or Subscribestar, because then that'll give me a little extra time to write little essays and post when I do have things to say, because most of the time I am just working or reading now. Oh, sorry, Mish Moosh. Yes, that's right. Mommy got a cat and got accepted to a master's program, and now I'm just a cringe post-walk cat lady.
End it. Just end it, please.
Seriously though, I appreciate all of you who have stuck around and who follow me. Go check me out on Subscribestar or Substack. I won't be posting all the time, but when I do post, hopefully it's worthwhile listening to. I don't know what else to say. Goodbye. See you next time. Farewell.
Okay. So that was a lot. That was a lot. We did it. We did it. We made it. Everyone say, I was here when Atlas survived the Lauren Southern video. I was here. I remember. Yep, I'm gonna probably, just like Tix, I'm gonna see how strong some of this rope I have in the shed is. No, I'm just kidding. What I will say, here's a couple of broad things I guess I would say. Because someone makes a great point with the last question they asked. I don't know where it went, but they asked, so is she a Christian or not? And I guess we kind of end the video not knowing. We still don't know. She kind of admitted to this upbringing, but then she said that she, citing Jordan Peterson, that she doesn't even really know how she would answer the question, which is to say she's not. I don't think anybody, and nobody really needs to any further explanation than that. She clearly and most definitely is not. And I think she's showing in doing all of this to highlight, maybe while not saying it, her problems with Christianity. I guess the other thing I would say too is I'm probably the only person who watched that entire video. I will stand out as the outlier. I'm the one person who watched all hour and 10 minutes. I'm the only one, the only one who has done it. And I really, like I had been saying previously, this was a lot of, thank you for the super chat, brother. I would say that this was a lot of what I was just saying throughout the video. It was low effort. It lacked discernment. It grouped all Christians together like evangelicals with Joel Webbin and Andrew Wilson when we know they're very distinctly different, and didn't make any distinction between the Zionist. It didn't bring up anything about the progressive nature of non-denominationalism. It didn't highlight any of the, rainbow sash wearing, worshiping Taylor Swift trans type stuff. It didn't have any of that. But thank you for the super chat, target 8059. He says, I witnessed Atlas survive Lauren Southern's nagging. Thank you for the super chat, brother. I appreciate it. We survived. And yes, Granola says that it was definitely a trauma bond moment. Yes. We're all now bonded together. When they're going to be doing my, they'll be doing, no, that might be a terrible reference. But I'll see you all in therapy. I can't wait for everybody we're going to all be in therapy together. That's going to be, it's going to be funny. But again, it lacked any kind of strong or reasonable distinctions. And if anything, it spoke more as somebody who is speaking from the outside looking in than it did from someone who was inside speaking about what they had problems with, what they were around. Which is kind of crazy because if she has this major upbringing, but then she also writes this book about her, her coming and redemption, it's just like a lot of it's not really adding up. And I think if anything, in a very loose and shallow sense, it's just a huge grift. Perhaps this seems to be the route she thinks that will help her get back into doing YouTube, or maybe not. She said she has a normie job and she's going for a master's degree, which could all just be a bunch of fluff. Who really knows? I'm going to be honest, I don't think she has any pathway to coming back to the political scene unless she did go in that reformed route, especially with how terribly she kind of got exposed by everybody in her fall from Gracie overall. I was expecting it to have maybe a bit more substance to it than what it did, but I'm going to be honest, it really just had all of the hallmarks of being a ignorant woman complaining. And what's wild about this is the whole thing is trying to, she's trying but not trying at the same time to give herself some credibility of I know what Christianity should be. Despite also saying, perhaps I wouldn't even call myself a Christian. But then, like I pointed out, with the Bible verse, with the help of House and you guys, she's not even following one of the most basic commands in the Bible. Which is to say, if she understood what it was told, then it would mean only a male would have a position to be able to assume any authority or to speak towards another male. And even worse than that, she says alleged Pastor Joel Webbin, she even attacks his credentials. So as a woman, attacking, even if it was just a woman and a regular man would already be problem enough, but then she's going at the credentials of a male pastor. Which, again, pastors should only be male, period. But we live in this depraved and degenerate society. Obviously disappointed with the content of the video. And I'm sure you guys all feel very, very similar. We have, where is this here? Angel of Sorrow says, she ain't no Faith Goldie, never was. And I'm going to be honest, not that I followed Lauren Southern, but because of the political shows and stuff I was listening to, like Tim Pool and Timcast IRL and others around the same time. We were talking, back in 2018, 2017, 2019, that era, pre-COVID, and then probably through a little bit of COVID before I found Sneeko, and then I found Nick, which is not the way most people find it at all. Now, I'd seen Nick on his, famous episode on Tim Pool, but I didn't even follow him after that because I really didn't know what was going on, and I was just an idiot at the time. But then I started following Sneeko and watching Sneeko on YouTube before he got banned, and the big banning came down. And that's how I found out about Nick Fuentes. That was kind of like my trajectory. But even during those earlier periods, she was obviously doing the conservative mainstream media. She was always being brought on. She would do this thing like even on Tim Pool where she would drink, what was it called? Pappy, I think is the name of the alcohol. I don't know what the actual name of it is. It's supposed to be like expensive. And the joke was she would drink this super expensive alcohol and liquor in a plastic cup or a styrofoam cup. And she always had this kind of trashy feeling and vibe to her, to be honest with you, which makes sense because if that was the time when she was involved in, you know, shacking up with Destiny and who all else knows. I mean, if you've seen any of these kind of, any reporting that goes deep into like the political, like not APAC, but like CPAC and a lot of these different events, and it's like with Grindr and seeing those reports, it looks miserable. I mean, it looks awful. And it shows like a lot of these people are just like banging and shacking up with each other inside of the conservative space. I think you see that even with like, was it MTG's husband? Not MTG's husband. Who's Chrissy Noem's husband, right? You see this going on. You see like those kind of relationships. And supposedly it's like it's rampant. You know, I think even Lauren Boebert, and she's involved in this just as much, but she made a comment when she was getting talked to by the press. And she says, why is everybody so horny around here? And it's like, okay, that seems like a pretty weak comment though, from someone who literally wears the lowest hanging cut shirts you possibly can. And the last thing I saw of you that was viral was you were getting fondled in a theater. So like, I don't really know who you are to talk about this, but anyways, I digress. Extremely weak video. And if anything, I was getting a little excited when she brought up the Pharisees, but it's clear she only brought up the Pharisees to attack anybody who's trying to, in any shape or form, try to levy any objective criticism or hold an objective opinion, talking about the legalese nature or the rabbinical nature, as we would say here, to argue and have an appearance of righteousness more so than caring about what the actual righteousness, grace, and faith and belief and repentance would actually be. But she misses all of the main points. She misses all of the main things. She doesn't really contextualize anything. And like what we saw the entire time, she was only showing like the complaints or the responses to. She wasn't showing what the original post was or what offended the individuals, because then that would have to entertain that there may perhaps be the other side. And so by removing the context, then you can just simply say, mean people, offensive words, they were LARPing or virtue signaling, and the audience just takes your word for it. Well, some people do. We didn't hear because we know there's a certain reason why she's doing this. I think I'm probably going to maybe you guys don't obviously need to watch it again, but I might reformat this stream and cut off some of the bits and ends and make it a bit smaller and just put it into a video form with some of the commentary left on there. I'm not sure though. Let me see some of these chats here. A couple of these came in here. Ian supposedly hit. If Ian Crossland hit on Lauren Southern, that's crazy. But apparently Ian Crossland hits everybody that comes into the temple arena. That's why he's not on the show. He's like, sorry, I just had a 2-hour session with the guest. What was her name? Eliza Blue. That was like the big scandal that really opened the door. And if Donnybrook's still in here, he can remember those moments when it was getting exposed just how close they were. Like Eliza Blue, and she's dragging up this fake story of all of her background. And then she was also being found out that she's like laying on, it was not Tim at the time, but it was Adam Krigler and like Ian Crossland. And it was showing you like there's clearly a close nature to this. You're not doing the right job of journalism. And then he raged out on people, and it was getting exposed that like a lot of the things that she talked about, and it's been so long because I'm forgetting some of the details, but I guess it was like just some of the claims that she had brought up were entirely fake. And instead of actually engaging with the reality that Tim made a mistake, he told all of his audience to just basically GTFO and don't let the door hit your ass on the way out, was like a literally direct quote. And then when people continued in the days following, he called them all bots. There's no real criticism. And again, it's to be expected. Tim's a very arrogant individual. Tim can do no wrong, essentially, is the way that he would have you believe it. But it is. Everything is degenerate. And she misses maybe the biggest point of all, which would be the easiest point of all, which is there is a massive return to Christianity in the overall sphere of all sects, largely. And the reason being is because at the very base core, people who are willing to listen and hear what is real and what is reality are getting the feeling that there is some very dark and evil and sinister nature to what is we are experiencing in the world around us. Married with all the betrayal of Donald Trump, married with the lack of information and transparency on the Epstein files, maybe less so on the deportation things, but those kind of things give people the feeling that like maybe they are ruled by an extremely evil force. And then you combine that with things like the sexual degen stuff, you combine that with the fact that all of the other Israel, the Netanyahu stuff's coming out, and then obviously the open kind of air network that X is, and people are seeing a lot of this. She is ignoring that. She's ignoring the reality of why a lot of people are turning to it and why there's this kind of maybe broad stream of it. Because to recognize that would then have to entertain that there is a reality that a lot of these people are actually getting stronger in their beliefs and do want to pursue a more robust and powerful, and dare I say it, offensive form of Christianity, which is one that would actually seek to uphold truth and values and doesn't just shy away and hide its face and tuck its tail between its legs the moment there's any kind of situation at all. And it's crazy too, because it misses a lot of more maybe broad points as well, as I've said. But again, you look at any kind of society pre the Industrial Revolution, pre many things, you look back in history, for the majority of all societies, depending on no matter which way they were formulated or formed or what the structure was, what you would have typically would be at the peak, at the top of them, their leadership or leadership structure was made up of, and typically they were all theocratic. It was all like the shaman, or it would have been like it would have been some kind of spiritual leader in some sense. And so she misses the point that then is what their return to Christianity is also based around, and why there's a big split between postmillennial and premillennial, which is to say, a lot of the reason why the rubber hits the road for a lot of Christians that gives them the uncomfortable element to this, getting a bit more deep into this, is the fact that there is a claim by many of these Christian nationalists to, once again, marry the Christian faith back into the governmental structure and system, to give it teeth again, to give it more than just a social institution's power and influence, but to give it executive authority once again, to reinstall it, to put God back in this country. Not in the sense that Pete Hegseth would have you believe it, but in the sense that makes people scared, in the sense that it would get close to things like Sharia law. Not that we're throwing gays off of rooftops, but that it would invoke things like modesty and fornication laws and things like that. Thus, this strikes fear in the heart of the average feminist or the average woman who is fully involved in embracing women's liberation. These things can't, they can't coexist. So I'm curious, is this a bit more of a kind of a bitter response to the way that her career has gone? Sure. I think you get a bit of that at the very end, actually. She even admits it at the very end of that video. She basically says, I'm not even going to dare respond on X because every time I do, I get flooded with comments. And of course you will. You are a fake. You got exposed. You are a grifter through and through. And now you're coming out with some kind of weird 90-minute video essay digression about the Christian faith. And all anybody heard was a feminist screeching because they're losing. And if the best points that you can make are you can point to an Instagram reel and say these guys are LARPing, I mean, if that's all you have, that's no better than what these X comments were. And she really didn't even expand beyond what the X discourse is. There was nothing that she injected that was powerful or anything beyond what you could already find that exists, that's being said by people like Ashley St. Clair. And if anything, St. Clair just did it in a more vulgar way. And it sounds like they might not agree on all things, but they definitely agree on a lot more than what I would agree with them on. So, all in all, hope you guys appreciated that. I wanted to run at noon. That's what the community voted for. If you guys aren't in the Discord, you definitely should. Definitely join the Discord. I believe there's a few links that are in the chat. The chat should stick around in the live chat replay as well, too. I'm sure one of them can throw in a link here as well. But the Discord is called Offensively Accurate. I haven't been putting the links out as much, to be honest. What else was I going to say? Oh, yeah. So I do have a plan later today to also stream. Forgive me. And I think we're going to do another kind of chill stream. I think we're going to do a lot more of the kind of chill and comfy streams on the weekend to get a bit of away from the, not to say I'm not going to be doing political content, but to have the weekends be more comfy, more reactive, more funny, being a bit more diverse in the streaming content instead of it always being super serious, always being, pretty negative for the most part, which I don't mind. I enjoy, I thrive in that kind of environment. But to also have some other stuff as well too, and to make it comfy. But it might be members only. but only really because I really am trying to test the ability of the computer to handle gaming and streaming at the same time. Maybe I'll unmake it members if it's going successful, but it might just be a members only stream. So if you guys are members, you'll probably see it. And should be joining me is someone who is one of my best friends, IRL, and he's been in chat occasionally. I don't think he comments too much, but he is in chat a lot of the times. So that's probably how we'll do it later today. I don't have a date for you because I'm waiting for him to also get off work. We're going to do like a joint stream, not team. And we'll be playing leagues. I think that's the idea. We'll be playing leagues. I also have some idea to do some Phasmophobia. I enjoy horror content and scary stuff, so I have ideas to do things like that as well. I'm always open to suggestions. There's what would you call that? A text channel, even in the Discord inside of there, that's like suggestions and clips and things like that. And you can just tag me in the community chat if you want to. I really don't mind that at all. But any suggestions on stuff you want to see, like I've been saying, I wanted to been adding a gaming element to it, not to make it a focal point at all, but to have a kind of a chill, whether it's reacting to scary videos or playing scary games. I wanted to open that up and have that available too, because it's just, I enjoy doing stuff like that. And, and it's content overall. And I think that's kind of, if I want to compete with people like Asmongold and other individuals like that, I also need to be able to be diverse and have a bit of variety and do things like that as well. That's a goal, right? The goal is to ascend. And really the goal is like, I want to be able to push Christianity, push Jesus Christ is Lord, and also be able to maybe permeate a little bit in some of these other kind of environments. It's a lofty goal, like, trust me, but I'm going to be honest, I don't think many YouTubers have success unless they don't shoot for those kind of like major goals. And that's kind of my idea, my thought press. Maybe I'll never hit them, but at least I'm sure we're going to try. So expect that later tonight, probably closer to like 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. Something along those lines. I will notify people in Discord once I get an idea. You must ascend from darkness. Yes. Sent 100 for 2 jewels. What is that? I don't even know what that is. I appreciate it though. Thank you. What? 2 jewels? Like like a ruby and a diamond gonna fall out of my ceiling or something? Like, here you go. I don't even know what that is. That's funny though. I appreciate it all the same. And I appreciate everybody who super chatted, all the commenters, everybody who was here the entire time. I appreciate you guys. And I do want to have more diverse content. I see people like LP and everyone else doing it, and I'm like, the only thing that was really held me back from doing it was I see all the YouTube guru stuff that's like, you want your channel to be a niche. Don't walk away from your niche. But at the same time, it's like, am I really gonna let this fat YouTube guru tell me what to do? Nah, I can't let that be me, dude. But F the advice. I'll do whatever I want. So that's the only reason I kind of held back. But it might be members only. It probably will be members only, just because I want to test how well it'll run. But that's basically it. And no Groyper report tonight because there was no America First to this week. And maybe I guess one last bit of advice. If you catch yourself getting a letter or message from CNN asking for an interview, ignore it. Take my advice and ignore it. Lest you also be roasted and found out and doxxed. But anyways, I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you guys later tonight if you are a member. And otherwise, I'll probably just see you tomorrow generally. So take care. Peace out. Thanks for staying with me. And Christ is King. As always, seek first the kingdom of God. Nothing else matters, quite literally. But I will see you guys later on. Take care.
Get up and get out. Get out. Get out.
I have a question for you.
Say Christ is Lord. Say Christ is Lord. Say it. You say Christ is Lord. Get out. Get out. Christ is Lord.
Offensively